He doesn't even enjoy the dignity of having a live mic. Go ahead, try it again.
More people showed up than I expected.
I like it better the first way, don't you? I like it like he's in the background. And did you get any particular gifts? Anything? Cufflinks, smoking jacket, Argyle socks?
I wish I got Argyle socks. People were slacking this year.
How about some new compression hose? Would you like that? That makes a great gift for those who because you sit a lot and the venous blood pools. Always check your ankles. We sit probably more than most people. That's a very serious. Don't let your youth fool you, my friend. I'll take more of those. Thank you so much. That was a great day yesterday. People were yesterday was one of the best shows ever. I walk in, I come home and my wife looks at me. She says, "What was that?" I said, "It's hard to say." And then she'll say, like, "Who was that guy?" And I also realize, so that you know this. If I'm on the phone 30 minutes with the best caller ever, I will never even think to remember their name. Their name means nothing. So you say, "Boy, that was something with Jerry." Who? Jerry. Who's Jerry? The guy who was on the ledge. You had to, you swatted him. Oh, Jerry. It just doesn't mean anything to me. So much I want to say. So much I want to say. So much I want to say. I don't even know where to start. I'm thinking, do you really want to hear this? Nah. Say it! That will always that will always bring a tear to me. Just a wonderful moment. And for you to grab that. The snoring promo, again, from a person whose name I don't know. I had no idea. I don't listen to names. There we go. This is the kind of stuff we're talking about. I sent that clip yesterday to everybody I know in the business. Really something. They said, this is fantastic. Not what I say. Not what I have to say about Zoran Mamdani or Epstein. No, nobody cares about that. But that? Oh, that'll do it. All right. That'll do it. That'll do it. Yesterday I went to the gym in the afternoon. I did my movie. By the way, you want to remember, please avoid sarcopenia at all costs, and especially your blade. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't pretend you don't know. Make sure you do something, especially as you become elderly and infirm. Make sure you always do your best to exercise, and also make sure that muscle loss. I know this sounds crazy, but sarcopenia is not good when you're older because you get a kind of a wasting. I know this sounds wasting away in Margaritaville. So anyway, as I'm warding off sarcopenia, the gym in my building, it's a very nice little gym, but there's a pool. And they will spend inordinate amounts of money for an hour, for 2 hours. And the pool is like, I don't know, 3 feet. But it's like a wading pool. Anyway, and you have a lot of folks who are walking around in thongs, slingshots, Prince Alberts. I'm making these names up. Maybe not Prince Albert. And many of them obviously are gay, which is fine. I'm glad I threw that in there, which is fine. But in order for you to do that, there is the first part of the contract that I think we owe people, and that is my body that I'm making you see. I'm not going to offend you. Whoever says the body is beautiful is ridiculous. There is maybe 0.1% of the population. And a lot of it has to do, I'm sorry to say, with youth to an extent, and also physical fitness and all that kind of stuff. But there was a man who was walking around who had more body hair than anything I've ever seen. Hirsute, hispidulous, and basically kind of a thong. And and the best part is he had all this hair, but yet he had this kind of this haircut, kind of like Mohawk meets Jack Dempsey. And I'd love to do a show. What were you what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? What is your message here? And also women, same thing. Why? Why are people doing this? You're lathering yourself. You're baking in melanoma. You must be thinking this is a part of some kind of ritualized attraction. I'm just curious. I'd love to have people say, no, you don't understand. I find myself very attractive. And I want to share it. And I think that by my walking around in the sun with it looks like I'm smuggling grapes with these thongs on, that I will somehow cause arousal in somebody. I think I look great. That's what I want people to say. I think I look great. That's what I want. Really? Absolutely. Okay, good. And my TV show, my summer replacement, will be called They Think They Look Great. That's my show. And they don't know why they're on. They're just a part of the show, but the show's called They Think They Look Great. Also, I just noticed, looking up on because the first thing I do when I come into the studio is turn off all the news stuff, because it's so stupid. I mean, I don't even know what planet they're on. But lo and behold, they have the old Iron Chef. Do you remember when the first Iron Chef came out, who'd hold up the green pepper and you take a bite of the green pepper, oh,
Morimoto.
Morimoto, yeah. Now, I know nothing about the Japanese people, and I meet them, and they're so lovely and smart. This guy's holding a pear. Anyway, and this guy comes up. Why? That's what you hear when somebody's taking your kid. That's a kidnapper's voice. Is that natural? I don't hear that in any other. I hear Japanese all the time. Yeah, but never. But whenever there's any kind of competition or a war movie or that, you go. Please, don't think I'm not. This is not racist linguist. Same thing too. I'm going to admit something to you, which I will tell you. I never understood German. I mean, literally, I don't understand German, but I thought to myself, why do these people talk like this? Because let's face it, all I hear are war propaganda and some guy screaming in front of a rally. I'm going to leave it at that. That's all I ever hear. That's all there's never like conversational, or there'll be some food on some, Oktoberfest. There'll be some titular, kind of a ridiculous view of German. Have you ever heard Nina? Nina from 99 Luftballons. Her music is so beautiful. I feel embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I did not know the beauty, the sonority of the German tongue. I did not know that. But these shows don't do anything. Colonel Klink, Hochstetter, yelling at each other. This guy with a I don't know. What do Americans? Have you ever heard that song? Go on YouTube and stay there. No, it's an Italian fellow who has a song in gibberish English. It's what English sounds like to him. You can go, it was a 70s hit. You can play it, and it's complete and utter non-English, but it sounds great. By the way, Flim Flam, I'm getting another thing too. We've got an update for you. For some reason, this monitor is always updating, and whenever I touch it, everything shuts down. It's always updating. You want to restart now? I don't want to restart at all. Why? We just updated the other day. Update now? Windows is continuously improving. Windows is an archaic form that was there first. I'm a Mac person, and nobody uses Windows unless you have to, and this is ridiculous. Anyway, thought I'd tell you that. So where am I going with this? I have no idea. I want to bring up a segue into something which you're going to find so fascinating because it's filthy, it's sexual, it's gutter, it's locker room, it's perfect for you. Look at this. He always sends it. Blaze doesn't move an inch. Yeah, Flem, you want to go look at that? You want to go look at that? Yeah, I'm in here. I got to do this other stuff. Would you do that? Okay. Hey, Flem, the computer's on fire. Would you go in there? But yeah, well, okay. Hey, there's a loose rat in there. Would you go in there and whatever the job is? Yeah, I'll do it. See, that's good until you're just taken advantage of by everybody else. Remember, do every job poorly. Okay, what am I talking about? Two things I want to talk about. Dirty Harry and Jeffrey Toobin. Now, let me explain to you. They have nothing to do with each other, but I have to tell you this. Do you know how stories get started in our country? Thank you, sir. When I was a kid, I heard, maybe you remember this. They said, did you hear that Gomer Pyle, Jim neighbors, we called him Gomer Pyle because we were kids, that Gomer Pyle married Rock Hudson. Did you ever hear that? When we were a kid, I heard that Gomer Pyle married Rock Hudson.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Now, how did you have that? How did you have that? How did you? That was the first time. That was Jim Neighbors' first bathhouse. In any event, and people would say, "Well, you know, Jim Neighbors was gay." I said, "Well, yeah, it didn't bother. Nobody cared. Isn't that funny?" In this '60s period, we didn't care. We knew. Well, you know, Paul Lynde was. Yeah. Charles Nelson Riley. Yeah. Didn't bother us. But anyway, we heard these stories, and I wonder, where does this start from? Where does this come from? I want to tell you a story, which I find fascinating. And please, if you're small children listening, do not let them hear this. Just do me a favor. Please do this. There is a story, and I want to tell you this. This is how stuff happens. It's called the Richard Gere story. Now, I can tell who you are. If I said, what do you think when I say Richard Gere? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Buddhism or no? Officer and a Gentleman? No. Those Coke bottle glasses he wore? No. Pretty Lady? No. Do you know that I believe he was, in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, he was the final scene. I believe it was Richard Gere. Do you think that? Nope. What do you think of? What do you think of? And it's so, because this is baseless, but what do you think of? Well, the mythology goes is that you think of some type of rodent, and there's a word called a gerbil. And there's nothing to do with it. This is what people will say. And I studied this. Where does this come from? How does it come? Where do these, because we're going to move into Jeffrey Toobin, which is a real story, which is kind of the same thing. And look, this is classic urban legend. It's outrageous, unsubstantiated, has nothing to do. There's all these things. Remember they said George Reeves jumped out of a building, he was Superman, jumped out of a building because he thought he was Superman. That never happened. I'm not sure how I think it was something else, but he never jumped out. He never thought he was suicide. People just say this. Okay. 1984 was this story. This story, it was, I don't know where it came from. It was about some unknown, a gay man and a mouse. I'll leave it at that. All right. And please just work with me on this. Over time, the story mutated. And for reasons that I will never know, it moved into Mr. Gere. Goes on and on. There was some Sam Kinison talked about it in popular culture in the 90s. The rumor exploded when Sam Kinison joked about it. There was an In Living Color sketch in 1992. There was a Sylvester Stallone, who had a bitter fallout with him in 1974, may have originated or fueled it. Folklorists have talked about it. This thing has taken on a story, a lifeline. And by the way, 100%, it's unsubstantiated. Washington with the wooden teeth. One of my favorite stories is that they always say, Lincoln walked 10 miles every day to do a school. Every day, 10 miles. Snow, sleet, wind, hurricane, doesn't matter. 10 miles every day to school. But there's one thing they always forget to tell you. He was always late. Anyway, so where does this come from? When does a story become a story? When there's something, if you look about it, remember the story. Do you remember the first time you heard the story of, dare I say, please, I beg you, forgive me. It was called Pissgate. President Trump, apparently he purchased some ladies of the evening, some courtesans in Russia to relieve themselves on the percales of a bed, I believe in Moscow. I've never understood why. I think it was some kind of a symbolic desecration of the Obamas. I have no earthly idea. Where did that come from? And they say, well, Hillary Clinton may have gotten it from the Steele dossier, and they spent $1 million. I'll do it for $50 and a six-pack. I'll come up with ridiculous storylines for you, too. So the purpose of what I'm saying, the purpose of this, the reasons for this, the interwoven connector is what is true. How do you know what you know? How do stories get out? How do they become metastatic in terms of lies? And that leads me to this. As I told you, I walk in and I turn off. I just, the news will distort you, but I can't help it. I look outside and they have these monitors and I can't help it. And one of them is CNN. I don't know who watches CNN. I really don't know. But I look up and see Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey Toobin. How this man can show his face in public because we have no shame. Do you remember the story with Jeffrey Toobin? I do. And that's a real story. It's not subject to myth, but it's going to be a part of our way of thinking. And generations from now, when they review this story in the future, I am telling you, when they review the story, they're going to embellish the Jeffrey Toobin story. Because if they can make stuff up like Richard Gere or this and that, they can do the Jim Neighbors and Rock Hudson. As people just make up these stories, imagine what they're going to do with a real story. Imagine what the Trump undonism story is going to be with the two hookers. Where did that come? Can you even understand that? So we're going to talk a little bit about this. I may mention a little bit about Zoran Mamdani. And if ever I met him, I would say, dude, because that's the way kids talk, you have completely freaked out my people like you cannot believe. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who is a physician I've known my whole life. He's kind of a leftist. And when I said Zoran, he went crazy. What is the matter with New York? For this man to garner this much attention, and the best part is, the Republicans or the people who don't like him think that this derision is somehow going to change the minds of people. Well, you're wrong. Okay, so you got where we're going? Wait till you see the next part when this rocket ship takes off, this discussion rocket ship. Our number is 800-848-9222. By the way, find out how to reach me at, listen to this web, you ready for this? Listen to this URL, Lionel.news. Hey! That's it. Go to your URL, type in Lionel.news. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. It will detail all kinds of stuff, up to and including the 19th of this month, when I grace the portals of the cutting room for my stand-up extravaganza. More coming up with me and you, a dog named Boo, and Toobin, and Epstein, and wherever we're going on the other side of midnight. There's so much more to the story. But the best one, which is even better, was a story of as follows. I looked up and there's Jeffrey Toobin. Now, you probably don't know this, but it was mid-October 2020. Where were you then? During a virtual strategy session hosted by The New Yorker with participants from WNYC. Jeffrey Toobin believed he had muted his webcam. You don't mute the webcam. I believe you turn the webcam off. You turn the camera off. That's what that green light is for, whatever. In reality, he was still visible to colleagues. He proceeded to masturbate on camera, an incident others witnessed live. Toobin described it as a disaster in his life, self-inflicted, destructive. He apologized, stating he genuinely thought the camera was off. Now, he didn't apologize for what he was doing. He apologized for leaving the camera on. That's like if I'm in the middle of vivisection, if I'm torturing a Persian, I'm sorry, I thought I turned the camera off. No, it's why are you torturing a cat? Why are you... And there's a chicken reference, which I'm not going to mention, but you can do the math. Well, immediately following this, Jeffrey Toobin was suspended by the New Yorker, fired in November 2020 after an internal review. What internal review are you looking at? They should internally review his head, his sensibility, his sense of right and wrong. They probably hired some law firm to investigate this. What are you investigating? Look, you can see this on the corner. Yeah, yes, exactly. What do you want to investigate? You want a thesis on this? The history of onanism? Now, CNN, he took a leave of absence. See, CNN was so desperate. These people are so corrupt. They said, we're not going to get rid of him because of that. What if he actually was strangling a chicken or doing something horrible? They was like, well, we kind of need him. So he was on a leave of absence. It's like World War I. It was just by the way, 30 past the hour on the other side of midnight. It's like a ceasefire. They didn't really end it. They just kind of put a pause. Same thing with the Korean War. It's a ceasefire. So he took in 2020, and then in mid-2021, he came back and labeling his behavior deeply moronic and indefensible. So why is he back? How good is he? Now, you know what I would have done? Say, Jeffrey, good news. We're taking you back. We are paying you nothing. You're going to pay us. Yes. This, I think, is in the morals clause. So this is our way out. They're going to slash our budgets. Zaslav's going to come in the future and destroy us. So we're going to start with you. If this really means a lot to you, you're going to work for scale, whatever that is. Okay. This, if you look at the broader repercussions, this was a cultural flashpoint. You see, the incident, in essence, sparked a kind of a broader debate, a master debate. Anyway, about blurring boundaries between private and professional lives during remote work, even earning the nickname. Now, I can't say this. His nickname was Zoom. I'll pronounce it Deek, like D-I-Q-U-E. I'm doing the pronunciation. That was his name. Imagine that. That's what you. Here we have Flim Flam, Riff Raff. How about Zoom Deek? And I'm trying to give it a French flair. This incident sparked calls for stricter virtual meeting protocols. Excuse me. Especially regarding sexual misconduct in remote workplaces. Now, as you can tell, they missed the point. See, because Zooming with Toobin. I mean, it screams for a joke. It became a wake-up call about the hazards of remote work. No, it doesn't. And the importance of strict behavioral standards, even in virtual meeting rooms. Though his career suffered a major blow, wait a minute, stop with these puns. Though it wasn't technically, if you think about it. He returned to the public sphere, pledging reform and accountability. What does that mean? I promise I will not pleasure myself on Zooms. Thank you. That's all we can ask. Thank you. Now, how many would take a pledge? Would you raise your right hand, just like, the old patriotism pledge? It's the most incredible story. But when I see Jeffrey Toobin, and there he was, and Aaron Burnett's got that kind of that, look at me, I'm so serious, I have that constipated look, I'm out front. I want to say, Jeffrey, answer me a question. When was the last time you ever sat during a tube? Don't you hate Zooms? Don't you hate them? Sometimes you turn off your camera. You can always see it. And you can see it because it'll say, like, there's a picture of you or your image or your initials. You can see it. It also tells people. I one time heard of a case of a Zoom. It was a Zoom, not a wedding. It was a Zoom shower. It was a shower. And people were going to the shower. A shower. I keep saying that enough. I'm sorry. And they had their initials. They didn't even put their picture up as their friend. This was during COVID. And saying, "Oh, we're breaking the ribbon," or whatever they do at showers. They didn't even have the decency. They weren't even there. But you know when your camera is off. But that's not the point. When you also go on these stupid Zoom calls, you go, hey, everybody, hi. And you see somebody whose camera's too low. You see the top of their head. It's like Kilroy was here. Okay. I'm getting to the point. When was the last time you said, I kind of like these Zoom calls. Yeah, hey, look who it is. Isn't that Maxine in HR? Ooh, you little temptress, you little vixen. Well, I don't know. Next thing you know, I lose my mind, and I'm overcome by this desire to commune with nature. That's the demented part. What about this was so arousing? You are demented. It's one thing when you were having a one-on-one, maybe. I mean, there's no excuse for a period. But you're sitting there with all these people yammering the most unerotic moment, a Zoom call, a strategy session with a New Yorker. I'd rather drink bleach. And all of a sudden, you're overwhelmed with some kind of arousal. You should be in a mental hospital. But here's the best part. CNN says, that's okay. Put him back on. Excuse me, you know what he did? Yeah, I know. We just don't have a lot of people. Nobody wants to work on CNN. What? He's that good. His insight is that good because now they're talking about the Comey and Brennan, which is going nowhere, which is so stupid. Another Donald Trump production that's going nowhere. So they have him on because he wrote that book, The Pardon. And as I'm watching this with Aaron Burnett looking very serious, I'm thinking, you know who that guy is you're talking to? Do you know what he did? Yes, I did. No. Do you understand what he did? You're having him on talking about Comey, and I'm thinking he's, doing the old routine of self arousal, whatever the I guess the appropriate term for this is onanism. He's doing that during a Zoom call. No, this is demented. I don't think you should have him near TV, children, small animals, a petting zoo. This guy's demented, and he acts like he made a mistake, like he forgot a lyric, or he, there was, oops, sorry about that. Oh, you're not going to believe this. I went to the car wash, and I left the back door window open. I guess it was a crack. God, I feel so stupid. Now that I can understand. But he basically groped himself in front and doesn't understand that green light. That green light is, you're hot, you idiot. You're a moron. And they think nothing of it. I don't want the guy to go to prison necessarily, but don't you think what somebody would say, listen, we are CNN. We are at the bottom of the barrel. We have no credibility whatsoever. I can't put this guy on. Who else? Now, I'm not going to go into detail about other folks who have had sexual problems who were on television shows, because if you did, there'd be nobody on TV. But I just want to know, where does this come from? Where, honest to God, that's the issue. I'd love to have on Dr. I don't know if Dr. Joyce Brothers is with us anymore, but I'd love to have somebody just explain this, because listen to what I'm saying. If you had any idea or any doubt that cable news is a joke, this is it. Here's the best part, without going into detail. As you know, the conservative realm loves to think they're holier than thou. They love family, they love God. The number of people who are stupid, everybody, they're back and forth, and they're cheating on their wives, and their broken marriages, and they're on these TV shows acting with their American flag pin. I'm thinking, do you listen? I'm not holding myself out to be some kind of a bellwether for morality, but I'm like Mother Teresa. Well, that's a bad one. I'm St. Paul. That's another bad one too. I'm whoever it is compared to these people. I swear to God. I think between Epstein, between Toobin, is it a Zoom call? Is that Jeffrey? Hey, Jerry, yeah. Can you imagine this? You're on a Zoom and you got a text? Yeah. Are you on the Zoom call? Yeah. Just look down, okay? I'm texting you, yeah. Is Is he looking for small change? What is he doing right now? Is he trying to fix his zipper? I don't think so. Oh my God. You think anybody, this can't be. You got a screenshot of this? This is going to be worth money. Can you record this? Yeah, please do. They're going to upload it to, there's got to be an outtake of that on Pornhub or something. Wouldn't you pay just to see the only man in the world ever aroused by a Zoom meeting? At a Zoom meeting. Remember poor Pee Wee Herman? He went to that one time. He said, I'm at an adult theater on the Tamiami Trail in Sarasota. It's not like I'm watching Golden Pond. I mean, it's like an adult, it's like a bathhouse or whatever it was. Do you know where I was? It's okay. No, they arrest him. Jeffrey Toobin, no problem. Leave of absence, I made a mistake. No, that's demented. If anything ever happens, if all of a sudden, authorities breaking news, Montana law enforcement authorities apparently are indicting Jeffrey Toobin. This is a joke now, for the disappearance of 35 orphans. And you'd say, I knew it. It's that Zoom thing. That was a hint. We went crazy over Pee Wee Herman. Crazy. But nothing for this. I don't understand it. Remember when, and I don't want to bring up Bill Clinton again. Bill Clinton, the cigar, Monica Lewinsky. It's like, in the White House? You were so moved in the White House? See, I guess what I'm trying to do is, I'm never trying to play holier than thou. Never. I think we're all demented. We all make stupid mistakes. But I've never done that. I draw the line on that. But here's the best part. Would it have ever occurred to you? You can say, call me wacky. Yeah, I'm kind of kinky. Why? What are your things? Well, I like the smell of burning rubber, acrylic hair, and Zoom meetings. In fact, what if you did this? What if you said, okay, role playing. I'm just saying. Some woman comes up, she's in latex and a whip, and goes, no, I don't want that. What am I going to do? I'm going to do a role playing with you. How much? $500. Okay, no problem. Well, what do you want me to do? Want me to be maybe a receptionist at a phlebotomist? No. I want you to be on a Zoom call with me. What? Yeah, I want to pretend we're doing a Zoom call. What do you mean? Yeah, that turns me on. I'll bet you, we used to sit, I'm going to tell you, when I was in traffic court, I was a brand new prosecutor. We had to sit through the civil infractions because there was no criminal case. We handled the criminal cases, reckless driving, DUIs, but things like speeding, we just had to sit there because it was the same docket. So I had this friend of mine. We used to think of outrageous forms of porn categories, and we would write them down. I said, okay, I got one for you. Lactose intolerant. We put all these things down, and we would just absolutely howl. And then we would say, this is a category somewhere. Somewhere you could say, I can see on TV. Today on the Phil Donahue Show, we have obscure porn stars. We have a fellow who goes by the name of Blaze. He mentions the eyes blacked out. What is well, I can't really go into detail, but the first part of my talent is lactose intolerant. Say no more. It's huge in Germany. There's always something. But I will bet you could go into Pansney wearing Ike, later hose, done, been there, done there. Obese beef eater, been there, done that. Okay. Myopic drive-through attendants, been there, done that. Big in Belgium. But if you said Zoom calls, what? Zoom, let me see. No, we don't have any. Nobody on the planet would find Zoom calls at all erotic except Jeffrey Toobin. He's out of his mind. He'll give away everything, his worth, his future, and he's back on a leave of absence. Not not fired. Even they would say, listen, we're going to pretend we're firing you. They didn't even want, they were so tenuous. They said, do we really have to fire him? Do we really? Missing nurses? Yeah, but he's such a good reporter, and that's the part that gets me. See, it's not so much what he did, but the fact of what kind of and if he shows that kind of a demented mind, don't you think they wouldn't allow him like in the CNN studios? Hey, my door pass doesn't work. Yeah, Jeff, listen, we want to tell you. One of the conditions was, no Zoom calls. No Zoom calls. Well, that's a relief. Well, maybe not for you. And you can't come into the building. Why? Because most people think anybody demented enough to lose their mind on a Zoom call, you shouldn't be around small children, pets, or people with learning disabilities because you're demented. You're demented. I don't fit into this world. This should have been the biggest story there is. This. It was like nothing. And I love the excuse. Now, here's what they remember I'm telling you. Same thing for you, Riff. Trust me when I'm telling you. When you do something really stupid, own it. Own it. Mr. Toobin, yes? Did you, the Zoom thing? Yeah, I sure did. That's me. Front and center, sir. Reporting for duty. Don't even say you're sorry. Was that you? Absolutely. In the flesh. Pardon the expression. So that was you? You betcha. My eyes adored you, though I never laid a hand on you. I never understood that song. So you're not upset? No, that's me. I did it. Yep. What else? What else do you want to know? Well, nothing really. Anything else? No. Okay. Should we be back tomorrow? Sure. Don't just act like, well, what's the matter? Is that you? Yep. There was a show years ago called West 57th Street. West 57th Street had on, I believe, in this particular, was it Meredith Vieira? It might have been, or the guy John Ferrugia. Remember, he had the mustache, he had that porn stash, and the braces. This guy he was all over the place. Anyway, it was called West. It was a knockoff of 60 Minutes. Called West 57th Street. So the amazing Randy found this guy who was an evangelical person. And his wife would go out into the audience, talk to people. Good day, how are you today? I'm fine. What are you here for? Well, I'm just worried about my husband, Edgar. He's got sugar diabetes. Really? And she would say, row 3. He had an earpiece. She was in the back with a microphone. Row 3. Lady with the bad sweater, yeah. Husband's Edgar, sugar diabetes. Got it? Okay. And he said, I'm feeling the call from a young lady about, you're worried about your, wait a minute, praise God. You're worried about, is it your husband? Wait. His name begins with a B. No, an E. Edgar. Is that Edgar? Yes. Oh my God. It's the Holy Spirit talking to me and my wife in my ear. And he has sugar diabetes. Oh my God, you knew. Okay. So what they did was the amazing Randy intercepted this. So I think it was Meredith Vieira. It might have been somebody else. But they went before this creepy evangelical guy and he said, Reverend, yeah, you claim to hear the voice of God, do you? Yes, ma'am. And you hear that when you do your ministry, that when you go to these people, you don't pick them randomly. It's the Holy Spirit talking to you. Yes, ma'am. I want you to watch this right now. Yes, ma'am. And you can see the video of this, and you can hear his wife saying, row 3. That's your wife, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. So that's not the Holy Spirit, is it? No, ma'am. So your wife went out and interviewed these people before? Yes, ma'am. So when you say it's the Holy Spirit, it's BS, right? Yes, ma'am. So you're a phony? Yes, ma'am. And she looks around like, what the hell do I do now? He just admitted to everything. He took all the thunder. He took and said, yep, that's it. George Jones in his book, I've lived to tell it all, he said, that's my life. Not proud of it. And that was it. I've used that line. Yep, that's me. Can you imagine if somebody asked you to write your most horrible moments that nobody's ever heard about? Would you ever do this under any? No. There are people walking around who have dark, dank lifestyles you wouldn't believe. And they keep their mouth shut, like most people. And if they go to a Zoom call, they don't leave the camera on. The point I'm saying is, If you're ever caught red-handed, you're caught cheating, stealing from the company till, whatever, guilty as charged, sir. You know, like Phil Hartman doing Ed McMahon. You got it. That's it. In the flesh, it destroys any gotcha moment. Now, when we return, we have a veritable bevy of calls for you. We have Linda, who's going to be calling. She wants to talk about Mom Donnie. He loves to live free, but wants to take away our freedom. That's a big, I've never heard that one before. Sonny in Pennsylvania said, Epstein, how can we trust the justice system? Now Sonny's catching on. It only took, 50 years? Tony in Florida, certain people putting on bikinis, and Martin in Putnam County says, camp mystic racist commentators, white boyfriend broke up with her. Okay. I don't know what that means, but that's the kind of stuff I like. So we're going to be doing this all morning on the other side of midnight until 5 o'clock. Why? Because we'll talk about anything. You see, when you've got 4 hours to kill and no commercial time, you realize that at the top of the hour, I'm out. I run to that John. I have nothing to do. But I'm thinking, if I'm stuck here, I can't go away for 5 minutes. There is no, you hear a lot of these shows, and there's commercial after commercial. Not this one. That's why when I come home at 5, I can't speak. I'm staring because I've been talking for 4 hours to complete strangers who are out of their minds. And that's the beauty of the show. 800-848-9222. More coming up on the Lionel Show on the other side of midnight.
The item of the day that they had to use.
Yes.
So it was, like you said, the ominous music,
Yeah.
the shots of the shadow of like a samurai, and he'd go, green pepper!
Or-
Dun, dun, and then they have the shot of the pepper.
Or they'll do this. They'll give the other name for it. Today's aubergine. What? Is that a...
Huh?
Wait. What's that?
Oh, it's a pepper.
Yeah, no. Eggplant. Oh, why'd you say so? Okay. Or sweetbreads. What the hell's that? You know what? It's a thymus gland. Is it a gland? You don't really know. They should have things like Rocky Mountain oysters. Huh? Those, it was a simpler time. I'm getting very, very nostalgic, okay? Very, very nostalgic. Let's go to the phones. By the way, but as I'm walking, as I'm on this set, they have this phony set where this guy, the greatest chef in the world, you got this 20-year-old Japanese woman says, the pecan sauce. He goes, ugh. It's like, what are you telling me for? I'm the greatest thing in the world. It's like if Daniel Boulay would, Boulou rather, or Boulay. I get him confused. And Vanger Richten, that other dude. Imagine somebody saying, I like the sauce. Thank you. But they have in the studio a tiki torch, flame, which is at Antifa, right? That whole Antifa thing. Maybe. I'm too much into the symbolism. Call me wacky.
Is that the original Iron Chef it's overdubbed in English?
Yes.
That's the best one.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like the only show, because I don't like overdub. I can't watch anything that's dubbed over, but I could watch the Iron Chef. And when I worked in video, we had a job where we had to transfer all the original episodes of Iron Chef to like some other video format. So I watched all of these episodes of the original show, and I was like, I love this show.
I don't need... Let me tell you a story. You ready for this? I saw Lillehammer, one of the best shows ever. Now listen to this.
With Stevie Van Zandt?
Stevie Van Zandt, yep. And I plead guilty. I watched it. I said, you know what? I said, it's pretty innovative. It's the funniest show. So as I'm watching it, my wife or somebody said, why don't you have it on translation? I said, what? I was listening to it in Iceland or whatever. I understood it because it was this perfect thing where he said, hey, why don't we, because Stevie's got that lip thing, like he's carrying walnuts in his mouth. Hey, why don't we go outside and see if we can do something, you know? And the guy said, why he's doing Swedish, I've known. What do you mean why? Because she's not there. And they would answer it perfectly. So I watched it and didn't even have the translation. I knew what they were, because it was perfect. I'll tell you why the pants were on fire, because he left the grenade. That's why. Of course he isn't. And it was perfect. And I didn't know. So you know what? I didn't even. Oh, why am I telling you this? All right, well, we return. That's 1 hour down. Just, what have I got now? Oh my God, three more. I can do it. We'll go back at the phones. Oh, we'll start the phones on this thing called The Other Side of Midnight. And we'll talk about Jeffrey Toobin and Richard Gere, and we'll think about it. I hate when people say, what's Black Sabbath? I never heard of Black Sabbath. You've never heard? I just told you I never heard of it. They love to rub it in. You've never heard of Antibiotics? What? You've never, what? So I live in the world of YouTube. It's where I live. I tried to Rumble. I couldn't do it. Can't do it. Everybody's just angry and mad. It's the same thing. There's no variety. None. I was listening to a lecture on who Caesar was. Unbelievable. I knew nothing about Caesar. Love it. So there's this new group of people, and they're the comedians. The comedians are the most obnoxious people you've ever met in your life. You will professional comedians. You will never meet any group of people more unworthy of your respect or attention than anybody who is a professional comedian. Ever. Because they transform, I mean, I'm not saying they're not good, but they transform that talent into genius level philosopher, voice of a generation, some kind of a connector, some type of some conduit to God. I was at an Endeavor one time, and I always thought comedy was kind of fun. Thought it was, I thought it would. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to hang around? I mean, wouldn't you like to know comedians? They are the worst people you've ever met. All of them, without, all messed up, not funny. People who are, by the way, professionals. They don't know jokes. They have they look at people in a way that I can't explain it. Now, I, on the other hand, don't understand what stand-up, I don't want to ever be a stand-up comic. No, I did. I didn't do stand-up. I did comedy shows. I put it this way. I did appearances at comedy clubs, but it wasn't, I can't do that. If somebody laughs, great. But I'm not there just for the joke. I'm in there for you to think about it, and you will invariably laugh because you'll understand how absurd it is. Does that make any sense? Like at July 19th at the Cutting Room. You'll see. So, something happened recently. I don't know why. But these people kind of veered off. It's like one of the little critters got loose. Joe Rogan became the most popular person in the world of podcasting. He is the Muhammad Ali, the whatever you want to call it. Whatever. And I said, where does Joe Rogan come from? I had no idea. They said, well, he was a comedian. And he owns a comedy club. And he would talk about doing a set. And he does the set. And I went out on the comedy set. And I did my set at Catch a Rising Star, the Laugh Factory, and Yuck Yucks. I did the set. Okay, fine. And I went back and watched some of his stuff. And it's the most unfunny crap I've ever seen in my life. It is juvenile, jejune, sophomoric, puerile, base, all attitude, nothing. Now, listen, if you like that, it's just like food. Take what you gentlemen are eating. I don't want to know what it is, but I'm curious what it is, because I love what people eat. What are you eating now? Riff, what are you eating? Still having some of the leftover casserole from your big party at the home yesterday?
No, not leftovers. It's a glorious cheese sandwich, as per usual.
Oh my God. Munster cheese?
Sharp cheddar.
Show! Now we're getting sexy. Oh, yeah, Mr. Fancy Pants. Got his big boy clothes on now. And the bread, how about describe the bread? Don't tell me. Wheat.
Whole wheat. 100% whole wheat.
Right. Whole wheat. Nope. How about just regular wheat? Isn't wheat just bread? Wheat is regular bread, right? Wheat. It's bread. Wheat. It's called wheat. But this is whole wheat. So the husk, what is whole wheat? So the husk is not necessarily ground or processed as much. More fiber. Is it brown? You know they threw sorghum or some color agent in there. It's processed, and you can leave that bread outside on a table for a week, and then it'll be just as soft because it's pulverized with chemicals, and that's it. Now, any type of lather, spread, sauce, anything to lubricate the cheese, or is it just cheese on bread?
Am I made of money?
Best life. Unbelievable. Put it this way. This is the only guy who could be on death row, and no matter what they gave him is an improvement. Hey, this is great. Extra. Cheddar? Oh, who died and went to heaven? Well, yes, sir. Now we're talking. There's a bit that Key and Peele did, who were brilliant. And you see the one, I don't know which one's Key. I don't know who's Peele. I think Key, anyway, the stockier of the two. He goes to a continental breakfast at like a La Quinta or something, and he's never been there. And he walks in and he says, well, what have we here? Have you ever seen that one? It is Oh, Cheerios. Wow. The golden morsel of the guy. Everything he's amazed by. That would be you. Now, let's go lowbrow. And let's go next to this connoisseur of the culinary. Mr. Blaze, what are you masticating with a frenzy I've never seen in recent years? What are you? I know it's in foil. Is that a processed? Some type of foil container.
Well, for my first course.
Oh, Daddy Warbucks, here we go. Move over, Daniel Boulou. Go ahead.
I have a chicken salad.
Oh, yes.
Now, wait for it.
Wait, hang on. Drum roll, please. Read it and weep, baby. Listen to this riff. This man knows how.
Forget whole wheat.
Yeah, right. No, this is better.
15 grain bread.
Oh, that's it. And
mic drop.
Some of the grains aren't even wheat related. Some of the grains are like pesticide, pencil shavings, aquarium gravel. Now, that's the first course. That's your, dare I say, your amuse-bouche, perhaps. What would your second course be?
The second course.
Here we go.
Will be 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 of those little chocolate crackles that we have in the break room.
Oh, yeah, those are, there's something about that. I'm not an well, my wife's a peanut M&M. She got me turned on to that. So that's, if I have to. Luckily for me, I'm not a chocolate person, just for whatever it's worth. No, by blood chemistry. But take something that you think, say, okay, like one of those weird, how about one of those weird, those things like at gas stations? Because I'm going to have like gas station food. Like they have those not jerky, but these little sausage sticks in a processed Slim Jims or something. Things that just, I wouldn't eat that rats wouldn't eat it. It's not even food. But if I put that in a dispenser that we have here, you would crave it. Look at all the Slim Jims I want. Look, it's in a dispenser. I can have as many as I want. Why? Why do you want that? M&M's in a dispenser. Go ahead. Stick your bowl under here. Turn this, each crank, you get like 300 of them. I say, this is fantastic. And you will get so sick immediately by virtue of just the quantity and the presentation, as it were.
I never had a Slim Jim until I was in college.
Listen, your personal life is your problem, okay? All right? If you want to be Mr. Hey, I guess you don't know what a Cleveland necktie is either. Fine, be that way. Okay. A Cleveland necktie. What does that even... Anyway, there's another Cleveland reference which we will not go into. See, I just find the food thing fascinating. Fascinating. There was my wife will tell you how they package things. See, it's like how you package a show. It's like how you package a show is like the most. What do you call it? What is the purpose? Go into any kind of chip row and look and see all the bags. First of all, half empty or half full, and there's so much to try to entice you. They have popcorn, which is virtually identical a bag of popcorn, and they'll say sea salt. It'll have some kind of pecorino, whatever it is. There'll be some reference to it. If you want the best popcorn in the world, by the way, take a cup of it, get that stuff, non-GMO, microwave it for 3 minutes. It's the greatest stuff in the world. No butter, no nothing. Just taste it. It is phenomenally great. Why I got into the subject, I have no idea. But I found that I know, because we're talking about food. Watching you people eat is very interesting. Very, very interesting. I took almost all of the saltwater taffy. I left 2. I don't want to be a pig. I left 2. I said, I'm taking these. I'm finding them. I don't know what the hell's in that stuff, but it is just, it's like, what is this? Because your mouth doesn't know what it's like, is this sticky? It's like, what is this? I don't know. We're normally used to like wet, okay? Thick, all right? Greasy, sweet. Then there's this. It adheses to your teeth. It sticks. It's kind of sweet. It's in this weird cellophane. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't even know what I'm eating here. But there's something about it.
And they're all different flavors.
Different flavors. So they say. And there's a design on it. For example, it'll see like Caraway Especial. What does that mean? It's yellow. I don't know what it is. Is it lime? No, it's yellow. That's it. It just looks good. And you buy things. You just want things. Well, that is where I started off. By saying, who are these people all of a sudden? And everybody's getting like, they're hooked on this. Remember when gluten-free came about? There was a place on 9th Avenue called Nizza. All of a sudden it said gluten-free. Gluten-free pizza. Gluten-free. 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 Well, hell, who the hell needs gluten? What is gluten? I don't even know what it is, but if it's free, I'll take it. I will take it. Is this gluten-free? Yes, good. Make that 2. Why are you getting gluten-free? I don't know. But I'm methylene blue. What does it do? It turns your tongue purple. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Pink salt is a new one. Here's it. Women are talking about pink salt. I lost so much weight, I had to stop taking the pink salt. What the hell is pink salt? You don't know what pink salt is? No, I don't know what it is. Okay. So as I'm going through YouTube, I come across this name. For some reason, Scott Horton. Tim Horton, the donut guy? No, Scott Horton. Who the hell is Scott Horton? You don't know who he is? No, I just told you. I don't know. He was on Tucker Carlson. I know he's on this. And now YouTube says, oh, you like Scott Horton? He goes, no, I don't like Scott. I just looked him up one time. Now I'm getting everything Scott Horton has done for whatever. It's like he won't. How do I undo the algorithm? Stop it. That was a one-time shot. Leave it alone. One time I was looking up compression socks. Don't ask me why. Because I thought it was a very interesting thing about people who sit for a long time and you have venous reflux. And don't get me. I just like certain things like that. Anyway, I'm getting all this stuff on compression socks. I'm getting them because the emails, ads. Okay. So I don't know who Scott Horton is. There's a guy named Dave Smith. Dave Smith was a comedian like Joe Rogan. Dave Smith is a self-styled expert on Israel and Palestine. Dave Smith goes on TV for the millionth time with, Oh, he'll be Alan Dershowitz, or maybe he's on with, I don't know, whoever. And they start screaming at each other about Israel. And I keep saying, who in the hell is this? It's this guy, Scott Horton. You don't know who Scott... No, I don't know who he is. Why is he an expert on Israel? Or anything for that matter? And I thought, this is the country we live in. All of a sudden, there we are. He's this expert. And we're listening to him. And I don't know why we're... have you ever seen a show called Breaking Points with Sargit... What's his name? Crystal Ball. That's her name. And Sargit... I don't remember his name. Okay, he's on, because he's an Indian dude, and he's and he's smart, and he's on with Tucker. And all of a sudden, overnight, they're famous people. They're famous. And people are wondering, who the hell is Sargit? Why am I listening to these people? By what expertise do you have? Now, you might be asking, well, who's this Lionel guy? Who am I? Who am I? That's not the question. The question is, who am I not? You would love it. The food, you wouldn't know what to do. I remember one time, I went to a cruise years ago, and this was, some are better than others, I guess. And this one, the first night you said, and tonight, and you're at your table, with your cruise mates. You just get to meet them. Where are you from? Duluth. That's great. Well, better get to know them because this is it. All right. So the first night is, tonight it's a salute to Rome. Hey! And then they come out and the woman who is like your cabin person, she's coming out with like a gondolier's hat. And this one is dressed like a Roman soldier, and this one's dressed, I don't know what they're dressed. And they come out, hey, they got the sparklers, and they go, arrivederci Roma. You're leaving? No, I mean, bienvenido. That's Spanish. Whatever. Rome, hey, Italian. And they bring out the food. What would you like? I would like would you like this steak? Romana. Oh, is this this sounds like a garbage scow with a sail. By the way, if you're on a cruise and it sounds like this, not good. Not good. It's going to be like that poop cruise on Netflix. You ever watch that one? Please do yourself a favor. Watch it now. I'll wait. So anyway, the first shot is, hey! Rome, Romas, arrivederci, la 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 la, and the Godfather theme, and they bring, there's a pizza, hey! Next night, it's a tribute to Greece, hey! It's ding, 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 and the saber dancer, Zorba the Greek, and this guy, they're throwing plates at you, or whatever it is, and it's like, wait a minute, this is the same food from last night. No, but there's more oregano on it, hey! And there's the guy who cleans our cabin. Now he's got a Greek sailor's outfit on. And they have sparklers. It's the same food, but different explosives to accompany the president. It's one of the greatest things ever. Tonight, a trip to France. Here we go. Guy comes out again. Isn't that girl nice? She's got a beret on. And it's the same steak. Goes, this is called steak Parisienne. This is a steak. This is the same steak. No, it's not, monsieur. Quit with that phony accent, Pierre. This is what... Tomorrow, you're running out of countries that are recognizable. Tonight, a tribute to Iberia. What? That's what you're going to sound like on the way home when that Munster hits. You know what I mean? You're in your... Now, if we could take that, combine it with the snoring caller... And we're talking Anthony Braxton jazz. Let's go to Linda's calling. Linda's been waiting for 16 minutes. Linda is in New Jersey. Linda, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. I would like to say, maybe you could explain it to me. I really don't understand the fascination of New Yorkers have with communists like Mondami and Bernie Sanders. They are the Moriarty of sensibilities. They're into covetousness, theft, and confiscation. And Bernie Sanders says things like, bread lines are good. You have too many choices. And it's kind of crazy because, like we have 3 aisles of wonderful different types of bread. Whole wheat is one of them.
15 grain? and whole wheat.
Exactly, yeah. And, why would anybody in their right mind would want to stand on a bread line when we have 3 aisles of different types of elite breads to choose from?
I can't speak.
Even on welfare, you have that choice.
I can't speak for Mr. Sanders, but I think he's probably saying that's not the beginning and the end of what I was saying. He might have said that in passing. But here's the thing. First of all, it's not New Yorkers. It is a certain faction of those few Democrats who voted in the primary. Let's make sure we zoom this in, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying New Yorkers. I have not met one. Not one that I know. And people who are left, so I don't know where they are. It's like people who say they love him. I don't know. There are more people are talking about him who don't live here than you can imagine. And what he has said, here is what he said, which was absolutely brilliant. And people are missing the point. When they ask, why they ask mayoral candidates, what is the first foreign country or the first place you're going to visit? I don't even know what that means. Why would a mayor, I mean, he goes different places, but where would you go? And everybody said, Israel, Israel, Israel. And he said, I'm staying right here. I've got work to do here in this country. Do you know how many people love that? That's all they heard. That's all they heard.
All right, but look at his competition.
But wait a minute. Well, but remember, right, Linda. But that should be. By the way, at 30 past the hour on the other side of midnight, that should just be you just saying, "What have you as a drop?" Hey, and what about this Cuomo? Hey, can you?
6,000 people dead in nursing homes. I mean, it's real. Look up. He's up against. So yeah, I could understand. Maybe he has 40% of the vote there.
Do you remember when Janice Dean?
Also,
do you remember when
Adams is a failed mayor?
Do you remember?
I mean, he brought in all these illegal aliens.
Wait a minute. Stop.
Everything he was supposed to give to the black people, he gave to the illegal aliens.
Can you not hear
black
me?
People nothing.
Can you not hear me when I talk? I'm just curious. It must be our phones. I guess I can't hear you. I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
Can you name the list of Democrats running? Starting with, of course, Cuomo, Mamdani. Who else?
And Mayor Adams.
Well, he's an independent. He's not really there. He's an independent. He's not in that group. Who else?
Yeah. Okay.
Who else?
If you say so.
No. Because that's why he's.
If he says so.
No. I'm saying if you look at that first group.
Mm-hmm.
Who are they? And you said the best. You went, hey. Who are these people? Who is running for New York City mayor? Who are they?
You
see what I'm saying? This says it all. You don't. I mean, not that it matters, because there's always going to be some people you don't know. But obviously. Eric Adams is running. He's going to be an independent of some sort, and you've got Zoran Mamdani. You got him, of course. How about is Jim Walden? This is an old one. I don't know if Mr. Walden is still this, but these names that came up, he was there, and let me see. Hang on a minute. Curtis, of course, Curtis Lewa, Andrew Cuomo. I'm looking through this. They don't really have. There were some folks. Scott. What's his name? Scott. He said, I'm going to go for my first time. Okay. It was the most uneventful group of people I've ever seen in my life. All I know is simply this. Rather than ask, why are these people crazy? What do they want? He is saying to them what they want to hear. And he wants to talk about things like rent and whatever the particular promise is.
Okay, so they're voting for free, but in the end they lose their freedom.
But you have to explain that to them. They don't see that.
Amazing.
No, but seriously, one of the things that I wish people would understand is you're not going to insult their vote away from him. I would love to have a group. For example, let's say I could run a program or an ad or a social media program or a campaign. And I would go up to New Yorkers and say, who are you voting for? Mamdani, great. How is he going to freeze rents? And just ask the question, kind of like Man on the Street. By the way, this started...
He's absolutely lying about everything.
But this started with Steve Allen.
Or he's confiscating.
No, what I'm saying, let me finish what I was saying. I want people to answer, and they will look at you, they'll bat their eyes, and they'll say, I really don't know. I like the idea. Now, let me explain something. I will vote for President Trump, mainly because there's no one else, and there's a lot that he's doing that I like. Some stuff is just insane. But people look at me, and they've told me I'm a fascist. I must be out of my mind. So I understand that I'm looking at them the way they're looking at me. So when you get that out of the way, do they really know what socialism is? No. All they know is that this is a guy who for the first time is saying something that matters to them. Even though it's impossible. Even though what he's saying, I want to give you a puppy and happiness and groovy music and all the Munster cheese you could eat. It sounds terrific, but just by mocking them, and the thing is, you cannot expect to win over Democrats. Because remember, there's three groups of people. People who are going to vote against you, people who are going to vote for you, but there's this undecided group. That's the one I want to get. And what do you tell them to lure them over? Let's go to Sonny in a place called Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. Sonny, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hello. I'm calling to say there's going to be other types of consequences for this Epstein cover-up. The fathers and uncles of this country are not going to put up with this.
What do you mean?
I mean,
put up with what?
Children are being raped, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, from another country, and they're just acting like nothing happened.
Wait a minute. Stop for a second. You're saying there's evidence of 13-year-olds being raped by Epstein?
I think he used them as bait.
Wait a minute.
To trap them in some type of crime.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Where is the evidence of this?
I believe Virginia Giuffre and all the other.
Well, she's dead.
Have come up.
She's dead. She's dead. And we never found out why she died, how she died. But let me work with me on this. Work with me on this. How do you know what you know? Pam Bondi would say, there is no list. Whatever I said before, I've changed my mind. There is no list. There is evidence. There is no evidence. What do you think there's evidence of?
I don't think there ever was a client list, because you're not a client when you're getting set up for blackmail.
How do you know what there is? How do you know anything? How do you know there is not? You may call it a client list. They may say a witness list.
I will connect some dots for you. When you have the former Prime Minister, Ehud Barak, coming in with half his face covered up to Jeffrey Epstein's wired up house.
Do you know how many people went and were guests and visited Jeffrey Epstein as his wired up house? And when you are there at this mansion or 71st Street or whatever it was, and you think that covering a mask is going to do anything? Do you have any idea the number of people who proudly and sought invitations for dinner parties or whatever? Do you have any clue as to how many people there were who did that? Any idea?
Hundreds.
And do you think that everybody who went there was involved in child sexual abuse?
I'm saying if my daughter or my son came home and told me...
You're not answering my question. See what you're doing, which is very interesting. I love this technique. I'll ask a question, and you'll say, well, I don't know if anybody or all the people who at Jeffrey Epstein did something, untoward or criminal. But if my daughter ever went into nude dancing, I say, wait a minute, hold it, stop. We're not talking about that. Answer my question. Listen to what a difficult, and Sonny's a good man. But I want you to listen. He's not answering my question because what we're finding is Sonny really doesn't know what he thinks he knows. Now, Sonny, here's the question again, and I try it. What happened other than Virginia Giuffre? This is what she said. She settled. She did all this stuff. How many other women were there? And what's the difference between isolated and systematic or organized? And what if these women, what if Virginia Giuffre says, let me tell you something about these women. I would go out and we couldn't keep them away from us. There were young girls who wanted to be masseuses, excuse me. They wanted to be apart. We flew them in. They went on buying sprees. They lived in that, I think he had a place kind of near, didn't he have a place near Bloomingdale's or whatever? Anyway, there were more women than you can imagine. There are people who...
These are children. Stop calling them women.
No, there are women.
No. 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds are
Where
not
are
women.
the... Let me try this again. Where are the 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds? Where are they? Who?
They've gone to the police. It was Palm Beach sheriffs who took statements, who wanted to arrest them, but the FBI took it over. Ghislaine Maxwell isn't sitting in prison for not doing anything.
Well, that was Acosta. No. But what you're doing is simply this, and I hope you appreciate this, and I think you're a good person. You're throwing in, you really need to spend a good 2 to 3 hours going over all of the facts of the case, what exactly we know, who said what, the total number of victims, what Ghislaine Maxwell actually pled guilty to, the number of people who were there and said, I know nothing about this, the number of people who've settled. See, you have this kind of an amorphous idea about him. Jeffrey Epstein, according to Acosta, the U.S. Attorney in Florida, said he was intel, quote, Middle East. What does that mean? I don't know. Why did Pam Bondi, did they set Pam Bondi up? Did Trump just pull her in and then say whatever it is that you're saying, say whatever you're planning? Because that first, I think was it Liz Wheeler was talking about how they were there in February to meet with the president, these new influencers, and all of a sudden the door opens up and there's Pam Bondi with a binders. I mean, it's so stupid. The story is so convoluted that if you were to jump into it, you wouldn't believe how little you know. But the purpose of what I'm trying to say is this last caller, a nice man, had all of his ideas, his thoughts about 12, 13-year-old girls. Many people will say, I was there on that island. I was a worker. I was a pool boy. I was landscaper. I never saw 13-year-old girls. Never. But you say, but they were there. Where were they? Who were they? Were they prosecuted? The bottom line is you don't know what you know. You don't know what you know. You've heard so many things, and if you sit back and wait long enough, you will hear everything from children to animal sacrifice to whatever. Look, he was a bad guy, but the problem is simply this. That case is going away because either A, President Trump is afraid that he might be involved in something, which I kind of doubt. I'm just giving the possibilities. B, somebody he knows and likes may in fact be on that, either on that list or in the case or whatever. Or they want to be able to use this information later on as our own form of blackmail, but if it's ever revealed, the blackmail becomes worthless. Combinations thereof. But listen to what I'm saying. You will never figure this out. There will never be a conclusion. There will never be a denouement. There will never be a kind of a wrapping up what happened. Here's what happened. Ghislaine Maxwell is most probably worried about her family being iced or waxed like her father was. So she'll do whatever time she was allotted. One day, Ghislaine Maxwell will find herself in the middle of the night. just released to some kind of a halfway house or some kind of a something, and she will be gone before you know it. And then you will find out, and she will find out that miraculously in some offshore bank or whatever, millions and millions of dollars will have either been that which was seized will be placed there to ensure to reward her silence, because for the most part she didn't say anything. She was charged with nothing. She also, by the way, is the only person ever that I know of who was charged with lying on a deposition, which if you would need a special court for that. You don't understand. This isn't going anywhere. And do you know that I know what you're saying. He was an Israeli intel agent, right? That's what everybody says on the YouTube world. He was Mossad. Really? Yes. Prove it. What do you mean prove it? Well, look who he is. I know who he is. Prove it. Well, Ehud Barak. Prove it. Les Wexner. Prove it. Well, Dershowitz has nothing to do with it. Prove it. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. This is when I started off today's show and I talked about gerbils and mythology and we're going to talk about that. You believe things that you swear you know. And what you do is you talk to enough people. I see this on YouTube in particular all the time. That and in social media. They start saying something. And then somebody else says, "Ooh, I like that. I'm going to listen to Candace Owens. I'm going to listen to for example, or Joe Rogan or Alex Jones or I don't know. And I like that. And you know what? I'm going to do my own podcast, but I'm going to have to kick it up a notch. So I'm going to take what they said and I'm going to jazz it up a little bit. And then pretty soon somebody jazzes up what I've said. And pretty soon I'm getting a lot of hits. And the next thing you know, this thing is turned into this wild slavery units with 12 and 13-year-old babies chained to. Nobody's ever said that. And all I want to say is prove it. Where is it? Where is the evidence? Here is the best part. Do you know that all of the tapes, all of the pieces that were seized, there is an inventory that is kept. When something is seized from you, from your home, let's say the FBI seizes it. They take, computers and they tell you this is what we took. Okay, fine. Here's my other question. And before we take a break, if I'm the Mossad, because we just love to say Mossad. For all we know, there's 4 people in the Mossad. We have no idea. Mossad itself could be the biggest con ever because you just love to talk about it. You create this image. It's just like MI6 and the NSA, and we just love this stuff. Okay, here's the best part. If I'm Mossad, everybody always says that because they always say Middle Eastern intel. Do you think, now hear me out, if I've got hours and hours and hours and years of recorded information, do you think I'm going to let it just sit around that place for years? I'm going to collect it every week, every day, every hour, and I'm not going to leave this hanging around so that FBI can come in anytime they want, seize anything they want, and the stuff that I want, if I am indeed running an extortion ring, which everybody seems to indicate, I'm going to have that. You think I'm going to leave 10, hey, look at this hard drive. This thing must be 10 years old. Are you kidding me? You attribute everything to, Mossad, and then you think they're the biggest bunch of Keystone cops ever. None of it makes any sense. You will never know. And the more you talk about it, the more they laugh because it gets more and more complicated and complicated. It gets like a Gordian knot. It gets tangled and tangled. And then pretty soon one day we say, the hell with it. But Pam Bondi, either A, is the stupidest person who has ever lived, which I know she is not. She's a good person. B, she was set up and just thrown under the bus, which I kind of don't think so. Or C, it just got out of control. That Kash Patel with those eyes and Dan Bongino, who was dying to be really the number one guy, they were just spewing these stories about Epstein and this and that, and now they're in charge, and they look like the biggest bunch of jadrools of them all. Nobody knows what they're talking about. We don't know anything. This thing went nowhere. It went absolutely nowhere. We don't know, and you will never know. But in your mind, this one caller said, children and 12-year-olds and this. Do we have any evidence of that? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. And after all, another thing. If you showed me, if I said, here's a picture of Blaze standing on top of a cactus, wearing a night jacket, pince-nez, and a Valkyrie helmet, and a riding crop screaming, Lafayette, I've arrived. He's going to say, that's AI. That's not real. Oh, yes, it is. No, it's not. Authenticate it. Tell me that's real. Prove it's real. Prove this is a true and accurate depiction. And I, of course, will introduce in court one that I've got that's even better. Here we have Mr. Blaze dressed as Joe Feeney, doing his Norma Desmond routine from Sunset Boulevard. I can create anything I want. So if you think this stuff, this idea of blackmail and videos, are you kidding me? Videos? And Americans, I'll leave you with this, are so stupid. They showed the picture. Did you see the picture of I guess, Epstein walking about a mile away at the MCC through the corridors, and that's supposed to mean something? The same people who, by the way, saw the picture of a, quote, plane flying into the Pentagon, which was really a cruise missile, and you thought it was a plane? Look, the bottom line is this. Save your time. Save your energy. You're never going to find anything out, I'm telling you, ever. Here we go for $1,500 and all the Munster cheese you can eat. You ever heard Radar Love and ask yourself, what is this song about? I've been driving up downtown, head on the wheel. Found about the time I feel. I don't know. I'm not even listening to it. It could be anything. There's this Italian song, this fellow, Adriano Celentano, who in 1973 wrote a song using gibberish about English, the way English sounds to him, and it sounds terrific. And if you really want to go crazy, the other night I was watching, they had the top 10 greatest guitar players. Again, it's that YouTube, 3 things this cardiologist would never stick in his ear. It's like, why am I watching this? But they had the greatest underrated guitar players. I think it was Ackerman from Focus, Hocus Pocus by Focus. The only one which is nothing but yodeling mixed with Jerry Lewis. Have you heard this? It's one of the greatest guitar licks. And I remember being in my room, I guess I was in high school, or I had this big TV with this big tube and, with the antennas, and I'm watching Midnight Special, and it was Focus. I think they were Swedish. One of the greatest guitar riffs ever in yodeling. And I thought, this is a great country. Okay, let's go back to the phones, back to what I call fun in a weird way. Tony in Florida. Tony, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Well, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Tony.
You probably don't remember me. I know you don't. But I called a couple weeks ago when you were talking about words that I mispronounced.
Yes.
And I got one for you.
Okay.
Police and cement.
Well,
and my husband says them both like that.
I don't want to disagree, but when people say insurance, that is technically speaking, that's correct pronunciation, but like words like supposedly is wrong. Jewelry is wrong. Realty is wrong. I know people who say to hone in on, to versus home, things like that. But police that technically is okay because that could be construed as a regionalism. The one I have a hard time with, it's a New York thing when they refer to Florida. Now, there's an R there. And that pronunciation, there is an R. Florida. I'm sorry, that's A-R or E-R. Tamper. No, that's not it. And don't get me started in the complete and total evisceration of Italian food from gabagool and mozzarella. I mean, I don't even want to start that. There is no other language. And please don't take this the wrong way. But the great and the proud Italian Americans have taken complete license with a wonderful and beautiful language and destroyed it with these weird regionalisms that are so. Give an example. Now this is different. In New Haven, have you ever had New Haven pizza? You know, Frank Pepe and all this. They have this thing called abites. Okay. Now that is a regionalism. That is a regional way of saying pizza. Maybe you had the clams. That's different. How about this? Sandwich. That's S-A-N-G-W-I-C-H. That's not the right word. That's not a mispronunciation. What about nuclear? Nuclear is a cacoepy. This is a mispronunciation versus orthoepy, which is a priggish, kind of a hyper-punctilious pronunciation. What if I said there's no film in the camera? I'm technically pronouncing the word correctly, but in a phraseology and in a cadence you're unfamiliar with. Have I clarified this? Have I shed some light on this? Because if I have, you're not paying attention. Hour number 3 coming up. It's my baby calling. It says I need you here. And it's 4:30. And I'm shifting gear. When she is lonely and the longing gets too much, she sends a cable coming in from above. Don't need no phone at all. Now, the first part of that, radar love, is there's a goal in my head that's bright now. There's a goal in my head that's bright. But there's a woman in my head and it's driving me heel of head. Now, if that makes, I don't ask a lot. I really don't ask a lot of lyrics. I just don't know what the hell that means. But it sounds great, and we don't want to ever say. Remember years ago they thought Louie was tough. They thought it was filthy, and it really wasn't. But they said it was. I just want to get rid of incomprehensible stuff. It really doesn't mean anything. Remember that song by who was it? Eddie Rabbit and Crystal Gale. Just you and I. It's just you and me. Which of course Chicago did. Just you and me. Simple and free. Life is so easy when you're beside me. Okay? This is the incorrect words. Just wrong. Years ago, there was a commercial that says, Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. It's as a cigarette should. And it went on. It was a big deal. Now, what I'm being priggish, and I know I'm doing all this stuff. And I want to also tell you, and I want everybody in the world of news in particular to pay attention to this. When you see the word COMPTROLLER, as in the city, it's a controller, like CON, not COMPT. If you say that, I don't know you, get out of here, leave me alone. Go, get out. Okay? You got that? Just go, just leave. It's one of those things that you would think somebody would say, stop saying that. It's controller. I don't know why it is. I don't know why they spell it differently. I have no why. It's not only is the M and the P silent, there's an N that's silent that's not even in there. Now you may ask yourself, is this really worth talking about? Yes, because I want precision. Don't you understand? I want precision in my speech. President Trump, for the most part, speaks But clearly, by the way, Victor Davis Hanson, who is, I think, the most boring man on there, knows a lot of stuff, but is boring, couldn't lure me out of a burning building. If he said, come on, this way. I don't know. The building's on fire. Yeah, I know, but, it's Victor Davis Hanson. He's very, very good, but he says that Donald Trump has a thick Queen's accent. Do you hear that? A Queen's accent? Never. I swear to you, if you heard him, you would say Northeast. He's not South, he's not West, but he does not have that, strong or whatever. It's just, my world is nothing but about being precise. Pam Bondi has a Tampa voice. And if you ever want to hear a particular accent, which is really arcane, listen to Lou Piniella and Tony La Russa. They're from West Tampa. Lou Piniella went to my high school. That's a West Tampa. And there's a kind of way to talk like this. There's a West Tampa. I can't. I hear it. I know what I'm talking about. Tony La Russa and Lou Piniella, absolutely, positively. I can hear that in my sleep. Can you discern Philly? Oh, you could. What are the words you listen for Philly? Now, when you want to hear Canadian, you want to hear one word, house. You wait for house, a boot, and that's it. What word do you hear in Philly?
Hoagie.
Yeah, hoagie, coke.
Water.
Bagel for bagel.
And I'd say, I had a friend from Philly who would say, I got to get a shower.
Yeah. But that's a phrase. But the A, isn't it coke? Listen to Bradley Cooper. You heard that classic one. He's on a Philly TV show. And he's doing there's this one about hoagies. He does some of the best Philly, also Tina Fey, wonderful. And it's really tough. If you're, do we have that? Do we have Bradley? Listen to this. I love that. I hear that. I know there's just this, and sometimes it's so subtle. Now, if I ask people, can you tell the difference between, and I'm afraid we're losing the New York accent, which I love. Oh my God. George Carlin did one of the best, the Archie Bunker kind of West Side sort of that, different versus Queens. And one of the biggest cons ever is Fred Armisen, who thinks he's saying something differently. He does all the accents in the country, Southern, and they're all the same. He just says, and this is Tennessee people kind of talk like this, and then Georgia people go up and down like, no, he just says that. They don't talk like that. He just says, but he does. He thinks he's doing differences between Staten Island and Queens. I'm afraid we're losing that because of the homogenization of speech, because we're hearing stuff. We're losing that patois. Can you hear, for example, Jersey versus New York? I
don't even know what a Queens accent is specifically. I know a Brooklyn accent, but I never even heard of a Queens accent.
Yeah,
and I could do a Brooklyn accent because I've heard it my whole life. But there are some people that I remember as a kid. We had somebody come into the house, like Carpenter or somebody, and he had such a heavy Brooklyn accent that I thought he had a speech impediment. And I had a teacher, a gym teacher in high school, and she was from Boston. And I thought she had a speech impediment because I was like, what? I didn't know. I knew New York accents as a kid because I grew up here.
There is a you. When I hear you, I know, again, I say he's Northeastern. Could be New York. You do not have a discernible, you don't say word, you're talking. And that you don't have that.
Because that, as I got older, I think it left me more because we moved from Brooklyn when I was 2.5.
That'll do it.
And, being around my parents who grew up in Brooklyn and their friends, but we would go to Florida every year when I was a kid. And we used to go to Homestead.
Oh, near the Air Force Base.
Yeah. And I remember I'd be in the pool with my sister in a community pool.
Yeah.
And there'd be some local, and we'd be yelling back and forth to each other. And they go, y'all from New York.
Yeah. Right.
And we'd say, I was like 9. I go, how do you know?
Yeah, right.
And I go, because you talk funny. I go, no. We don't talk funny.
Right.
You talk funny.
That's the whole notion of the beauty of the accent being relative. And there used to be this terrible joke. Somebody would say, it's relative. Well, so is incest. But who cares about bugs? Anyway, brr-pa. And one time I told somebody that, and they go, that's not funny to joke about. I'm not joking. Incest, bugs, insects, don't you? Relative? Come on! Stop it. But now, we can talk about this all day long. Let's talk about black accents. Nope. Oh, no. If there was somebody from another planet and I said, do not bring this up. Did you ever hear Doug Williams? Doug Williams was the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, went to the Redskins, won a Super Bowl. Absolutely uninteresting. Put it this way. You ever heard people mention Eric Adams? Well, he's not the most articulate. What do you mean? Now, Curtis, they'll have no problem with whatsoever. Curtis, by the way, Curtis, if you called Curtis in the middle of the night, woke up, hello, yes, Curtis Lieber. I mean, I'm from Canarsie. No, you're not, because it's an act. His real name is Cecil Montague III. Very, very Newport family, very, very old money. Anyhow, when Eric Adams would talk, or does, people say it. No. Now, Cuomo, that accent, I defy you. What is that? The cadence, the up and down. First of all, the ghoulish demeanor. His brother doesn't sound like that. I've never heard anything like that we have that where every day when he would say, and I make sausage up and I believe that I feel up and down. And why do we make the sausages? I don't know. And I'm not even doing, this is what it sounds like to me. I am mesmerized. I've never heard anybody speak like that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I love we really don't have, put it this way. Going back to what I was saying before. If a person came from outer space and we're going to live with this, I'm saying, listen, Mork, or whatever your name is, do me a favor. Don't ever say anything about black people, black voice, black anything. You can say anything you want about white people all day long. Even if what you're saying is 100% correct, they will kill you. You'll be called a racist. Why? Even though you have no intention whatsoever. None. Jonathan Winters did one of his best voices ever is a black voice. And he did it very rarely, but it was to this day when I hear it, cracks me up. What he did, Ed Bradley, when he was telling Ed Bradley, you're free. You're free. Anyway, it was so good, but he could get away with it because he's Jonathan Winters. But when I first left the prosecutor's office, I said, okay, I'm a defense lawyer now. And I said, and a lot of the judges will say, well, we will put you on this conflict list. When the public defender is, for example, let's say represents two people, let's say there's a new charge of 2 defendants, they represented one before, they conflict out, so they put me on the court appointed list. So I got all these new court appointed cases. And I went from there, I was 20, what was it, 25, I don't know how old I was, 25, 27, 26, whatever. And I came and I didn't know black. I mean, I knew black folks, but, you know. Well, I became immersed. All of my clients, all of my witnesses, all of my family members, immediately, I was immersed in a world and in a speech which fascinated me. And when I would talk about it, as you can probably tell, I love language. And I love the way people would speak. And there's colloquialisms. There's, you know the word fin. If I said to you, if I asked Riff Raff, what is fin? He'll probably think it's a dorsal fin, a pectoral fin. No, fin means about to. I'm fin to go. Fixin' to go. And the infinitive is fin. Fin to go. I fin to go. See, I did not know a fin to go. First I heard fin to go. I don't know. Fin? Finish? I'm so stupid. Finish? What? So one time I had a client, a woman, and again, this is what I heard. Her daughter was there. Listen to this, to translate. Now she was born in the South, and her daughter was there. And I said, "Do you have any children?" Well, one day she said, "I had a baby passed." I said, "What?" So I turned to the daughter, and goes, "Our baby died." I said, "Oh," because I wasn't really into this whole passed away. But I heard, "Baby passed." Oh. And why did the baby pass? And she said, "Screaming mighty Jesus." And I turned to her daughter, and she says, "Spinal meningitis." And I said, "How? That is brilliant. How did you get screaming mighty Jesus?" I went to the doctor. "I have flames." Flames? Phlegm. Oh, phlegm. Okay, fine. Little thing. So one time my favorite was a guy who had two names. Even though it was a long time ago, he had two names like James. You know, like weird. And it was like James. And so the clerk would say, last name first name. Blaze Matt, James. No. I said, "Excuse me, you got the wrong James. It's James. The second James is the first." I said, "What?" Anyway, so he told me one time, he said, he came to pay me in cash. And he knew I didn't know what I was doing. He says, "Gambling money." I said, "What?" I said, "Maybe I should know." He goes, "Gambling money." He says, "How do you know this is gambling money?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "It's scrunched up because you hold it in your hand. Because when you're betting," he says, now one time he said, "Drug money." I said, "I don't want to hear this." Clean. Very quickly, he worked at a liquor store. There were 3 different types of gin that he sold. Hogshead, Walking Man, and Hogshead, Walking Man, and Naughty Head. When we return, I will tell you the differences between those and how you better know that. And also, what is a pack of what I am? Okay? I'll explain this to you in great detail on the other side of midnight. One time I had a fellow during an actual case. It was a juvenile case, no trial. Excuse me, no jury. It's an equity thing, and it was very simple, nothing big. And I had this guy working with me. Actually, it was a young lady. She was a brand new prosecutor, and I'm showing him how to do non-juries. We would do like 50, 60 non-juries in an hour. I mean, it was the fastest justice you've ever seen. And oftentimes, you would hear somebody say, "State your name for the record." "Yes, my name is Elias Raff." "Mr. Raff, were you employed?" "Yes, I was." "What happened?" "Well, I was in there, I go to Rob, and that was it, and you're witness, and you know what the person said. I don't have to prep you. You're a victim. Tell me what happened. That kind of a thing. Well, in this particular case, I don't know who this person was who took the stand. I assumed it was the victim. I assumed. And you know what happens when we assume. So I said, "State your name for the record." He said, "Gerald Sorrell." I said, "Okay." So I walked over to this new prosecutor that I'm supposedly teaching the ropes. I said, check this, guys. You got to file this. Is it Jerry? I don't know. I said, well, Mr. Sorrow, what happened? In your own words. And he said, I was walking straight down the street, and the dude knocked my sky off. So I 99 back to my mama's crib because of 99. No, excuse me. I skied on. Let me try it again. The dude knocked my sky off. So I skied on back to my mama's crib because 99 was rolling in the hole. Okay, very good. You're a witness. And I turned to the public defender. And this guy's name was like Greenberg. He goes, what? This was the best cross-examination ever. What? You what? And the judge, who was a very nice young man, no, not a young man, he was an older man, he goes, by the way, at 30 past the hour, on the other side of midnight, the judge said, would you, young man, approach the bench? And he said, I'm having a difficult time deciphering what this young man is. And I said, well, Your Honor, let me translate. He said he was walking straight down the street. KT, sometimes interchangeable. And a dude, a man, fellow, knocked his sky off, knocked his hat off. So he skied it on back, went back to his mama's crib, his mother's house, because 99, the police, were rolling in the hole, were advancing upon him in his neighborhood. He said, well, that is remarkable. Cross-examination, public defender. What? You what? That was the whole thing. So anyway, so I said, I'm doing pretty well here. So as I said, well, how did that make you feel? Or I don't know what I asked, something along those lines. How did that make you feel? What did you think? And his response was, apparently he started crying or he was choked up. And he said, pity, hitty, hatty, ho. I said, thank you, you're witness. And I turned again because this time I had no idea what he said. Public defender gets up, cross-examination, brilliant. What? You what? I mean, that was all he said. What? I think about it to this day. It was hilarious. Anyway, so I looked down, and the court reporter, very nice lady, Carmen, she's tapping away, and she's kind of laughing. I said, okay. And we were ball busters like you cannot believe. And the judge said, Your Honor, would you please instruct Madam Court Reporter to read back that last answer in its entirety and not what she thinks he said, but what he said. And we've got time to kill. There's nobody watching. The newspaper's not there. Nobody's ever going to see this. You've never heard of this case. It was retail theft. I don't know what it was. But anyway, so the judge says, that's a remarkable question. Yes, Madam Court Reporter, would you please read back that last answer? And as was instructed, do not report what you think he said, but please tell us what he actually said. He said, okay. Question, how did that make you feel? Answer, pity, hitty, hidey, ho. Your witness, cross-examination. What? I had the transcript of that. To this day, I don't know what happened. I don't know what the case was about. I don't know who this guy was. So we had this thing, which was extremely irregular, called double secret probation. And what the judge would do is he'd stand up and say, well, y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Thank you all for coming. You take care. We'll see you Monday. He gets up and he walks off. And I'm looking like, well, what about the case? Did we win? I don't know. So I asked the clerk, I said, excuse me, what was that? You want to ask him? I said, no, I don't want to ask him. He said, well, what do you put in the court file? He goes, disposition unknown. So we left. I still don't know what happened. We walked outside, and they would do this double secret probation. I don't know. I to this day, I do not know what happened. I had a guy one time this was a good one. This was a very good one. There was a fellow, the defendant's name was something like Sharp or Axe or something, but you'll see why it's important. The victim happened to be gay, doesn't matter, but went to this house. was about to knock, and there was a paper plate. And on the paper plate, there were like 10 names. And it said, if you're one of these people, go away, leave me alone. So he turned around and he left. But as he was walking away, the door flies open, and the owner comes out with him with a hatchet and starts chasing him around, trying to kill him. And I still don't know why. There were 10 people listed. He didn't bother, didn't knock on the door, didn't, nothing. Just almost killed him. Well, anyway, it was aggravated assault. So we're doing this, and this guy's on the stand. It was a non-jury trial. Did a lot of those. Thank God. And the judge said, "Excuse me, would you, young man, approach the bench?" And then he waved off the court reporter, which means, "I don't want you to write this down. This is going to be good. You stay right there." And he said, "Are there any?" All these judges are very Southern. He goes, "Are there any overtones to this?" I said, "What? Overtones? You know, he seems rather emotional." I said, "Yes, man, Runner, he was almost hacked to death." I said, "Yeah, there's some overtones of apparent guilt." He said, "Oh, I see. Do they know each other?" I said, and the judge is basically saying, is this some lovers' quarrel? I said, "With a hatchet?" Maybe, but I think that disqualifies it. So anyway, guess what he does? He gets up and says, "Y'all have a good weekend. Take care." And he walks off. I said, "Damn it. That's the second time this has happened to me. Double secret probation. What is it?" So everybody's done, and the victim comes up and he says, "What happened?" I said, "We won." What am I supposed to say? He said, "Well, how come the other side is congratulating each other?" Well, because, there was no adjudication or no jail. Anyway, later on, when we came back from lunch, this guy comes up and he's storming towards me. He says, "We didn't win, did we? He just got up and left. You told me we won. This guy tried to kill me." And it isn't funny. This isn't funny. Can you imagine this on TV? What kind of show is this? I said, I don't know. He goes, "Would you ask the judge?" "You ask the judge. I'm not going to talk to the judge. Be the prosecutor." "Well, maybe, but listen, the judge said, I want you to stay away from him." And that was it. It was, I cannot tell you, every day in the real world, in the fun real world, this would never be on TV, but the contretemps, the background stuff, the angst, the anger, the screaming, the oh my God. One day, a fellow came in. There was a courtroom door. There was a hallway where you walked in, opened the door, walked into the courtroom. This is like the judge's entrance. He saw me. Door opens up. They're doing closing arguments or something. It's dead quiet. He thought he was in the wrong courtroom. Opens the door, turns to me, and says, "Yeah, no effing way for the effing F." He turned, and they said, "Oh my God, there's a trial going on." And he's yelling, "Effing this." So I got a call, frantic call. I got back to the office. Phones going crazy. We had no cell phones. He said, "You got to help me. The judge is going to hold me in contempt." I said, "For what?" I said, "I need you to come and testify." I said, "Testify for what?" "I don't testify." He goes, "No, listen to me. I'm serious. The judge thought I'm being funny. I want you to testify and just say that I was talking to you and that I didn't mean anything." And I said, that's not the way I remember it." And he was like panicking. He was panicking. This guy was a Vietnam veteran. Combat didn't scare him. This judge terrified him. I said, "Okay, I'll do it." So I was like, I saved the day I came in. This was the same guy who one time we were doing a murder trial. I called him up pretending to be the defendant. This is so, oh my God, it's not unethical. It's like illegal. So I called him up and I said, "I think we should plead." He said, why? I think that Jewish man is killing us. So I'm ready to go, who? That Jewish man. I said, I don't, what Jewish man? I was referring to me. He said, he's kicking your ass. He's not kicking. And he was about to say something, and I realized, I think I should just hang up. That broke every rule. I think on the borderline of illegal. I'm sorry. We got the job done, is what I'm saying. And I loved just sometimes knowing, kind of like this show, you walk in and you don't know what's going to happen. Hey, look who it is. Chris is in the Catskills. Chris, you're on the other side of midnight.
Hey, with all the different directions your conversations have gone in,
yes!
real quick, Lou Piniella, in the book about the 1977 or 78 Yankees, I guess he had a habit when he was in the dugout. He used to scratch his scalp and then sniff his fingers afterwards. And then
maybe that was a sign.
Mickey Rivers, the try and steal second base.
Right.
Mickey Rivers, when he was told that Reggie Jackson had an IQ of 150, he said, "What, out of 1,000?" And when I lived in Colorado for nearly 8 years, and when I first moved out there, and I would get in conversations with people, and just like in the grocery store or in a college classroom or whatever, they would make fun of my East Coast accent. They would always frame it as, "Oh, you just moved here from the East," or whatever, and they would make fun of how I said a particular word. So, what
was the word?
I don't recall.
Oh, okay.
So the
that would have been so much of a better story if you could have remembered that, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. The caller that called in and asked about your opinion on the infatuation with Mondami.
Yes.
And she sounded like a very intelligent voter. And, the bell curve is a real phenomenon with voting. But I think it's going to be very interesting because assuming de Blasio, let's classify him as a progressive, maybe slightly or somewhat militant progressive Democrat. He wasn't really a full-fledged socialist. So de Blasio, as the administrator, mayor of New York City, doesn't count as him being a full-fledged socialist. So this is an opportunity for a socialist, full-blown, to prove themselves as an administrator.
Now,
they have history of getting elected as legislators, like AOC, okay? But there's a big difference. If you're a legislator, you can basically hide in the group, and you're not setting policy and really running anything.
Slow down for 1 second. First of all, there's so much of what you've said that's important. Number one, he is not a socialist. Let me explain this. And I do this all the time, and I waste my time, but that's like the word fascist, socialist, anarcho-capitalist, whatever it is. He is not suggesting government ownership of production factories or anything like that. He is not talking about a, quote, planned economy. That is the term of art. He's not talking about that. If I went to a socialist country or a communist country and I said, I just want to give things away, they say, that's a welfare state. And that is the worst of the worst, because at least socialism, you can say, well, here's how we do it. We own everything. Communism, perhaps a more virulent form of that, but we own everything. We own means of production, and then we will survive. Again, it's not going to be that great. We're going to have to use perhaps maybe sometimes force to enforce it, but there is something behind. You can actually run a socialist country. You actually theoretically could, if you could stand it. Okay, a welfare state, Al Sharpton, Mamdani, is let's just give it away and not worry about how it's paid for. It doesn't matter. Somebody else will figure this out. Let's have a rent freeze. Okay, when you have a rent freeze, imagine going into a major thoroughfare and just walking out in the middle of it and stopping everything, stopping traffic. How long do you think that's going to last? When you put a monkey wrench into the gears of commerce and capitalism, he has no interest. He's going out there and he's just talking about things like rent. And that's all. And they're going to say, thank you. Nobody who was about to receive what they consider a blessing is ever going to say, now hang on a minute. How exactly do you plan on doing this? No, they just say thank you. If you hand out government cheese or food or water or whatever it is to people in need, they don't say, now wait a minute, before I take this, where did you get this from? And am I going to end up paying for it? No. So everybody keeps using this word socialism. So it's not socialism. It's worse. It's welfare state. I'm just going to give it to you and we'll figure it out later. So what happens is, as you know, Chris, he is created out of nowhere. Central casting from the wall, from the halls of Montezuma. No, from the halls of the shadow government. And they took this guy, young man, attractive, nice, smiling, recently became a citizen. Isn't that great? About a couple of years ago. His mother has a $1 million loft. And I mean, this is the biggest bunch of phonies you've ever met in your life. But anyway, he's central casting. So somebody said, let's see what happens. Remember, Chris, the next one you're going to see is a full-blown, John Waters dystopian, divine wannabe trans actress. 7 feet tall, bouffant hair, the whole bit, to shock the level of order even more. That person will be even more popular than Mom Donnie is, because of the fact that that person represents a part of this immature, not socialism, but this radical chic. I love this. To say people who have 10 pounds of ink on their skin, covered in tats, purple hair, studded nose, who changed their name to Moondog, they love this, the romance of being whatever it is that they're trying to be. They love this.
What platform would they be running on, Lionel?
Democrat. And it only works.
What would their platform be? I know what party they'd be running with, but
their platform would be progressive, love, LGBT, people. They started off incrementally. At first, they said, "Do you remember a while back? Maybe you don't. I think in 2016 or maybe right when Trump was coming on board, they said, let's have unisex bathrooms. Remember this. All of us. Okay. That was the systematic successive approximation, that Skinnerian movement into let's soften them up with this. And then the next step's going to be, well, if we share bathrooms, then let's go into the schools. And then all of a sudden, remember this, all of a sudden, trans came out of nowhere. We have my wife and I, she in particular, we have many, many gay friends and older. And one in particular said, so help me God. He maybe knew a couple. I never knew there were literally hundreds, if not thousands, of all of a sudden these revolutionary, loud, militant trans folks who came out of nowhere. Dare I say, they are the Antifa and the BLM of this performative, theatrical group of pretend activists. And they were embraced like you can't believe. So much so that these mindless, not Democrats per se, but whatever they are, these lefty, whatever phrase you like, they said, I want my daughter, my son to be one. They then went to Hollywood. I said, listen, they said, we've been taking care of you for years. Half of Hollywood hasn't made a picture in 20 years. How they live in these mansions, how they support these lifestyles, I have no idea. I suspect it might be kind of USAID connected, so to speak, but ever since they put an end to that. So they said to earn your keep, we want out of all of you at least one kid for you to sacrifice onto the altar of trans. And think about this. Go back and just do a ChatGPT search or regular search and ask how many Hollywood elite actors, actresses, entertainment have at least one trans child. It is mathematically, statistically impossible to have these many in this small population. To wrap this theory up, they create these memes. He's from Central Casting, and he works. And there are people who love him because he is anti-Trump, anti-conservative, and also you must admit New York is just nuts in terms of the stuff that people went along with. Hell, they even they thought De Blasio was great. De Blasio, who was elected only because his son had an afro. So what I'm saying is these people are responding to something that unless you were there, you can't understand it. He represents the answer, the counter. It's like we're revolutionary again. I'm going to make a statement. However, if you really ask people in the city of New York, how many people actually are for him, you would be surprised at how few people are. The people who are for them are the loudest and the most significant in this rather de minimis substratum called radical Democrats. Does that make any sense? He's important, he's popular, but not by as many people as you think. Our number 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. And if you can understand what I just said, you're the one. Remember how the daughters were acting weird? We knew more about Gene Hackman than we did Epstein. We knew where he went, where his wife went before they died. We knew about the dog, the configuration of the house. We knew everything, where they found him, what he was doing. Remember, there was so much putrefaction, they started to mummify. Remember that? But Epstein, nothing. Fascinating. Let's go to Charlie in Cherry Hill. Charlie, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, you were talking about accents earlier.
Indeed.
And different connotations and different types of accents they have. The reason why I call up is if it gets somebody hurt, it can be bad. And the example that I was going to use was the 911 call of Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls into the police. He's got this guy who eventually hits him with a hammer and stuff. So he calls up to the police, and the woman answers the phone. She says, 911, what is your emergency? The same standard prayer they say. Now, you can tell right away for several things about the 911 operator. Number one, she's young. Number two, she's got a sassy attitude. Mm-hmm. And number three, you can tell by her voice that she's black. So the guy says, my name is Paul Pelosi. This guy is in the house. He's waiting for my wife to come home. And she starts collecting more information and treats it like a casual call. Mm-hmm. Now, had I been taking the 911 call, and I'm sure you would have done probably the same thing, I would have said, excuse me, sir, did you say your name is Paul Pelosi? And he would have said yes. I would have said, you said you guys waiting for your wife to come home? And he would have said yes. I would have said, sir, is your wife's first name Nancy?
You would have been fired.
And then he would have said, yes. I would have answered that. And
you
I
would have been fired.
Immediately put him on hold. I would have said, sir, can I put you on a brief hold? And I would have every cop car, every police car, every squad car rush to that.
No, but I'm saying, first of all, you would have been fired because his wife and who he has really doesn't make any difference because they're going to claim it was some kind of a political thing. Number two, what 911 folks don't ever tell you, and this is important, Charlie Rangel, bless his heart, used to say, when they call, we never forget the day of 9/1. He always sounded like Harvey Firestein. Hello, I'm Charlie Rangel. How are you? We'll never forget 9/11. No, it's 9/11. No, 9/11's the day, Charlie. Okay. I call the 9/11. No, you call 911. Which one is it? If it's the date, it's the 11th. Anywho, what they don't tell you is a lot of times they dispatch the calls. They're out there, but they don't tell you that. They're acting like they're going through a mortgage application. So, who was your favorite Yankee? What? On a scale from 1 to 10, would you consider Terry Kath better than Les Paul? What? Wait, are you coming out there? Oh, we'll get to that. Don't worry. Is everything okay? Is he breathing? What is he doing now? And people will come home and somebody's like complete, their head, they're decapitated. Is he breathing? He's dead. How do you know he's dead? But they don't say it. They don't say it clear enough to you that they're already on their way. But speaking of that Paul Pelosi, I just want to know, what was that all about? You know? I mean, not that it matters, but aren't you kind of curious how he picked this guy up? Or did he pick him up? Or what happened? And what about Juicy Smellit? Remember him? What happened to him? Is he charged? And what happened to Virginia Giuffre? How did she die? See, we just forget. And it's difficult because infancy is hard to remember, to go back that far. And I was trying to think, okay, because I'm always thinking, do I remember really what I remember? I'm thinking, okay, do I remember? This was, yeah. So I think I was in law school when I think during that particular period of time. I'm talking to friends of mine now, and we're starting to lose people in my class. One guy who's out of his tree, others as well. It's a fascinating thing. I have a friend of mine who is a physician, and we're talking about getting older. Sarcopenia. Over rice, wonderful. This is atrophy because of being old. You really have to work out when you're older. You really have to work out more. No kidding. When you're young, you don't really have to. When you're older, you got to maintain your resistance training. Big. Seriously. And people say, but I'm tired. No, now is when you do it. Now is when you pay attention. Very, very important stuff. Very, very critical. I don't want to go through the whole thing but do you have all of your stuff laid out in case something happens? Who makes your decisions for you? I know this may not be the stuff you want to talk about, but it's important. Like, I have this thing in my mind where, and I don't know how to enunciate this, as you will see, but my wife and I had a friend of ours, and we just didn't see her. And so what happened? Anyway, read the New York Times. She committed suicide. Like in one of these Sweden things, or is it Sweden or Switzerland, wherever the hell it was. And I thought, so the question we began asking is, do you have the right, or should you have the right, or should you have the ability to off yourself? And I love this conversation, and this is fascinating. And maybe we'll talk about it. I don't know. It's up to you. But I thought, they said, well, yes, you should be able to do it. But what if you're depressed? What if you're depressed? What if you are depressed? And they always say that. Oh, that's a good point. But then I ask, well, why would you? That's probably one of the best reasons why you'd want to do it, because you were depressed. Does that invalidate your wanting to terminate your life? I'm sorry. This is just a philosophical question. Okay, you're right. You should only be able to kill yourself if you're completely happy. It's like, then you're demented. Then you're crazy. Now that's even worse. So the issue becomes, do you have this right to say, that's enough, I've had enough? Do I want to live my life into this belief system where I'm going to be kept on life support or something where, no. So you need somebody who kind of understands how this thing works. You see what I'm saying? And I have my friend who's a physician. We have something worked out where I'm saying, I'll give you the hint. I'll give you, the instead of a safe word, this is the opposite. The pastrami at the Carnegie is lean. I'll be right over. And nobody ever wants to talk about this. Nobody ever wants to talk about this. It's like when you're in probate, you look at wills. Wills are very interesting. You know, probate's a fascinating subject. It sounds kind of dull, but it's not. And it's so interesting. There are two kinds of operations that I find fascinating. One is title insurance. Title insurance works backwards. You're insuring things in the past. Very interesting. Think about that. You never have something that you're insuring in the past. It's always behavior you're doing right now. Probate is one of the few things that take effect when you're dead. Normally, when you have somebody who dies, everything stops legally. That's why when you go into court, you oftentimes, you know what it's called? When somebody dies, let's say you're in the middle of a lawsuit or something, and the major party litigant, plaintiff or somebody, dies, and the case is done. What do you call that document that you file or that thing? And I love this concept, a suggestion of death. Isn't that beautiful? There's also a suggestion of bankruptcy, which is also, that stops everything. That's why you have to stop immediately because of the automatic stay and blah, blah, blah. But I love that, a suggestion of death. And probate is one of these ghoulish things where, okay, let's say you die before your wife. Okay, it goes to her. Let's say she dies before you. It goes to you. Okay. Let's say you both die at the same time. The simultaneous death clause. And let's look at each as though you died first, then your wife died, and then you think of every permutation. Now, who would you like as a personal representative or a testator or a executrix or, well, my Jerry. Now, what if Jerry dies? You're always doing what if he dies? Well, okay. Okay, what if Jerry's wife dies? My God, I got to think of all this. Okay. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do this? Now, in the event you die. But see, that's okay. That's if you die. But what happens if you're incapacitated? Let's say you're just out of it. You're not dead, but you've got bills to pay, checkbook. Who's in charge of that stuff? Durable family power of attorney and all this. You have to just think about all these. But who's the one? I like what they say, healthcare proxy. Are you a healthcare proxy? Okay. Now, how do you tell somebody? How many times have you had this expression? Don't ever let me like that. Whatever you do, right? You have it all the time. My wife and I always say, do pillow on the head, or I say, you call my friend, and then you go out and have a long lunch. Okay? Long lunch. And when you come back, we will have suffered a burglary. And during the course of the burglary, I will something tragic. But anyway, we kind of laugh about it. But whoever talks about this? Nobody does, especially when you're younger. And I've never known anybody who's done this. Now listen, Blaze. Promise me one thing. Yeah, man. Don't ever let them kill me. What? Make sure you have them. I want you to keep me hooked up. I don't care if I'm just a blip on a screen. As long as I, through some weird definition of life, am alive, please, just let me bleed. Even though I'm groveling in my own waste, I'm shriveled. I weigh 4 pounds. I've got tubes. Please do not let them pull the. Nobody's ever said that. I don't care what it costs my family. I don't care. Money's no object. Remember Karen Ann Quinlan? Remember years ago? Karen Ann Quinlan was the first case of a woman who it was a right to die. And I remember the Jesuits were very, very, very. I feel very fond for the Jesuits. I went to high school, but people always think I'm some part of an Illuminati group because of the Jesuits, and they have no idea. But anyway, Karen Ann Quinlan, they went to church, or the court rather. They want to pull the plug. The family says, but the court said no, and they got to go to court. And what do we do? Is a right to die. You know what the problem was? Insurance. If Karen Ann Quinlan had no insurance, there ain't no problem. Did you ever hear somebody who was found? Hey, we found this homeless guy on the side of the road, hit by a car. He's not dead, but he's going to need long-term rehab. And really? Yeah. He's going to be, it could be up in the millions. So, any idea of what we do? I don't know. Does he have any family? Nope. But we got to keep him alive. I mean, he's not dead. And with rehab and, oh my God. And he's a young man too. It could be, oh my God, hundreds of millions. Rehab. Then there's the neurological care, round the clock. Yeah. Okay. Next thing you know, hey, do you know what happened? He coded. What happened? I don't know. It was the weirdest thing last night. But he was fine. Yeah, well, you tell me that doesn't happen. You tell me. Tell me somewhere in this great land of ours, there isn't some like death squad guy who comes along and says, okay. All of a sudden they say, code beep, Jerry Vale. Okay. All of a sudden some guy shows up and he has, where is he? He's in there. You want to take a break? I'll take a break. Two guys in suits come in. They have some kind of a toolkit and they walk out. They give you the sign and they walk in. Oh no, what happened? He coded. Damn. Son of a. Here's one for you. Let's assume that there is well, I don't know if you're ready for this. Might be too early for this, but I'll tell you anyway. Let's assume you are the owner. Your husband dies. Listen to this one. He dies. He just passed away. And you now own the body. You hear what I'm saying? You own the body. You are the wife. His organs, lenses, everything. You got it? Good. You also have ownership of all his bodily fluids. There is a way to insert a device, I'll just leave it to you this way, into your deceased husband, and you can get a semen sample. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? Guy shows up, he's got a toolkit, and that's his job. He has a long pole, it's electrified, and it stimulates a certain part of the anatomy, and you will get a semen sample. Okay? And then you give it to the wife, and she's happy. Now, let's assume the person who is dead did not want that to happen. The person who is dead, let's say, is an older man, and he has a prior family, and he never had any. He never intended to have children. But you, being the wife, owner and custodian of the body, you then take his bodily fluids and you decide to inseminate yourself. And now, 9 months after the death of your husband, you give birth to a child he knew nothing about and never consented to. Is that postmortem rape? What is that? Is that done? Yeah. Who owns what? I don't know. You see, the best part about legal stuff, and let me just stop right there. It's not the stuff you see on TV, not Epstein, not Diddy, but the real heady stuff. You think about property rights, testamentary intent, public policy, what you owe, how you owe things. What if you cut famous people's hair, and you cut Mick Jagger's hair and you put it in an envelope, and then later on you take that because it was it PCR or PRC, whatever it's called, you take it and you splice it, and you could clone Mick Jagger, or a Mick Jagger clone, or a baby. Whose is that? That's Mick Jagger's. Can you go to Mick Jagger's estate and claim some type of support? But he had nothing to say with it. Doesn't matter. Does the law address that? Does the law address that? We don't know yet. What if you clone yourself? What if you clone yourself one day and you refuse to pay for your clone? And you go to the hospital and they say, pay for this. I'm not going to pay for that. You got to pay for it. That's your son. It's not my son. And you fill out the birth certificate. Well, what's your kid's name? I don't know. Blaze. That's the name. And who is your son's parents? Who are their parents? My parents. It's my clone. Wait a minute. Your son's parents are your parents? Yep. His grandparents are his grandparents are my grandparents. This is me. This is me. Well, we're going to go to court for child support. It's not my child. It's me. or we'll do a DNA test. I'm telling you, it's me. What do you call that? Who pays for me? The law says, we never thought about this before. We had no idea, because the law always lags behind technology. And if you think what I'm saying is far-fetched, believe me, nobody's thinking about this. Just like with AI. Nobody's thinking anything about that. Nobody's even, you haven't even come close to that. In any event, I'm sorry to choke. Let's go to the phones. We have loads of calls. I'll stop this incessant rambling. Our number 800-848-9222. Don't forget Lionel.news. Go to Lionel.news for all you need to know about stuff involving me, how to reach me and all that stuff. Lionel.news. And this is the other side of midnight. But I love to watch people. I wish I could just watch people put in septic tanks and water heat. I think that is so brilliant. Tile work, anything like that. I wish I knew how to do that. Oh, take that back. No, I wish I knew how to do it, but I wouldn't do it. See, that connotes. And the secret, by the way, is to do it after I'm done talking. There you go. This was them preparing yesterday for the banquet, Il Banchetto, for Riff's birthday at the home. They were putting up the security barricades, taking out all the meatloaf, there were meatloaf rotisserie, and a lot of Triscuits. Fun was had by all. Let's go back to the phones, back to the fun. Let's go to Justin in Yonkers. Justin, you're on the other side of midnight.
Good morning, Lionel. Hey, sign me up to be stimulated after I die.
You know what? And we'll leave it with that. That's going to be our promo. Promo.
I wanted to say something about the Southern accent.
Yes, sir.
But before that, yesterday you were talking about 9/11 and the photo that was released from the Pentagon of the cruise missile.
It was actually it was a film clip. Yes.
And people were waiting for that to be released. And on the day they released it, the timestamp was wrong. The timestamp said September 12th.
Oh, details. You killjoy, you. Always looking for the facts, aren't you? You and this fascination with truth. I'm telling you.
So, all right. So just briefly, I'm not an expert on this, but the Southern accent, words like y'all and police and insurance, put in that accent that way. Sometime before the American Revolution, there was a civil war in England between the Roundheads and the Cavaliers.
Mm-hmm.
And Cavaliers lost, and many of them moved to the Americas, the New World, and they settled in the South. And that their accent is what gives us things like ain't and putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
That's very interesting. And also, one time I did a newsletter, did a little research on the word axe. People say, "Let me ask you a question," and that goes back all the way to Shakespeare's time. Believe it or not.
Right. But it's Old English. It's Cavalier English.
And I think you're being very cavalier. Justin, enough about that. What do you do in Yonkers specifically?
I work. A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Really? You're a criminal, is what you're saying.
No, I'm a hardworking guy. I just got off work.
What is the most, if somebody had never been to Yonkers, what is Yonkers most famous for? The number one source of pride among Yonkerians?
Well, I mean, there's Otis Elevators, which is kind of an international company.
I did not know that, sir.
Oh, and how about this? You talked about frequency modulation and amplitude modulation.
Yes.
Frequency modulation was invented by a guy named Edwin Armstrong, who lived in Yonkers.
Get out of here! I did. You are this now.
And
what
he built a transmitter on Warburton Avenue, and he built receivers, and he'd go down into Manhattan, and he'd sell the receivers on the street. And that was the invention of frequency modulation.
How did you know? How you are a master of erudition. I find this. Do you know that Yonkers is the 4th largest city in New York State?
Yeah, it's pretty close to the 1st largest city. It's kind of a part of.
What is the nickname of Yonkers?
I'm not sure, but
City of Seven Hills. The City of Seven Hills.
Okay.
Do you know when it was first incorporated as a village in 1855, then as a city in 1872? What about its name? Where'd that name come from?
It's Dutch, and it means essentially means the aristocrats or the young heirs.
You are so correct. It comes from the word Dutch Jonkers, which means the cattle are dying. No, I'm kidding, of course. It means young gentleman, named after Adrian van der Donck. Donck, D-O-N-C-K, a Dutch lawman whose title was Jonkier. And it was an industrial powerhouse. He mentioned Otis Elevator Company, 19th to 20th century. It's fascinating. It's a backdrop for film. It was used in films like Catch Me If You Can, The Irishman, famous residents, Mary J. Blige, DMX, Ella Fitzgerald, briefly, actor John Voight.
Yeah,
and also,
John Voight is Angelina Jolie's father.
That is correct, sir. For the win, for the block. And also, although it votes blue in national elections, local elections can skew moderate or center-right, sometimes leaning more conservative than nearby New York City boroughs. Did you know that?
I mean, it's just north of the Bronx. It's and you know, in the 80s there was the whole low-income housing war. They didn't want any low-income housing in Yonkers, in East Yonkers. There's a lot of wealth in half the city and a lot of poverty in the other half of the city.
Well, let me tell you something, Justin. I appreciate you calling so much. It's a fascinating issue. By the way, 30 past the hour on the other side of midnight. I one time spoke at an event. It was my wife and I went. I was a speaker. It was like a Chamber of Commerce or something. And I said, how about I'm bonkers for Yonkers? And he said, I never heard that. I said, you never heard that? Come on. And they were like writing it down. I said, listen, give me some credit for that. Bonkers for Yonkers. Isn't that great? Let's go to Pete on Staten Island. Pete, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel, the 19th of July is a big night because I got tickets for your show on the next day
Petey.
for the Staten Island Yankees. You'll know I'm there because I'm very loud, and some people say I take the air out of the room. But the thing is, what I want to do is I'd like to let you allow me to give a birthday shout-out to an old fling of mine, Linda Ronstadt. She's going through a very bad health thing. She has worse than Parkinson's.
Yes.
And my wife has Parkinson and some medications that we are lucky enough to take. For my wife, and she doesn't even shake at all. People don't even know she's got Parkinson's. But the medication's like $30,000 a month. And believe it or not, some very wealthy friends of mine help me with it, and my wife gets it every month. One gentleman who you're familiar with, Anthony from Grimaldi Pizza, he's a very good friend. He calls me his brother, and he's my brother. He helps me a lot, and a couple other friends. So Renee gets the proper medication, and but her kind of Parkinson, as explained to me, what Linda has is far beyond what my wife has.
She has progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP.
Right.
And it's a rarer neurodegenerative disorder that mimics Parkinson's but doesn't respond to typical treatments. And PSP, I'm reading, profoundly affects motor functions and repetitive actions like speaking, singing, even knitting, making sustained vocal performance impossible. Isn't that,
Yes.
I know this makes no sense, and it's unfair, but when somebody was one of the most incredible talents, she was nobody. I mean, remember her Nelson Riddle era, then the mariachi. I mean, she did stuff like nobody's business. She was just it still is. I mean, she's not dead yet, but she can't sing. But when you see somebody who is that talented, who cannot speak, It's horrid. It's horrid. Two people I've known, both in the wrestling world, both who, because of cancer or whatever, Gordon Soley, who had a voice like, he couldn't speak at the end, and Bobby Heenan, Bobby the Brain. When you look at what he went through, how it ravaged his face, one of the funniest, and thank God for YouTube, because in YouTube you can listen to him. He's just genius. Again, it's horrible no matter who you are. But anybody who tells you that life and fate and entropy aren't cruel don't know what they're talking about. Russ in White Plains, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. I hate to pivot from these upbeat topics, but
Russ, pivot.
That's what a lovable commie
you're not going to
is
do
for.
that. You're not going to do the commie thing, are you?
Well, I mean, I just wanted to mention because you had the Harrod and Judith talking about,
Nah, it's all right. You know what? It's all right. Russ, you're like a turd in a punch bowl. I'm sorry to tell you this. You can you can slam on the brakes so much. And I know you're a good guy, and I know that you mean well, but you bore the living crap out of people. And I know you don't mean it, and I don't mean, and seriously. And I know I know in your world you're saying, but I have something important to say. But when people hear you spew this commie bilge, they want to just stick an ice pick in their eye just to make the pain of you go away. And I don't mean any harm by it. I don't mean anything. But Russ, most of us would rather suck a hospital mop, or lick a belt sander, or drink bleach, or thumbtack or frenulum to a particle board, or lance an infected hemorrhoid with a spork and squat over a vat of alcohol, then listen to 1 millisecond of your commie leftist anti-American crap. But I don't mean anything. I mean, don't take it the wrong way. You're a good person. You're a good person. But I would just rather take a razor blade. I mean, Russ can just kill a moment. Put it this way: if you say, "Hello, Russ," here we go, and it's here comes the truck. There we go. We bypass the truck. Oh wait, it's still going. Not done yet. Not done. Here we go. Go. The momentum. Not done yet. Nothing. It's hitting things, and like the expanding universe, it's picking up, kind of like Hubble predicted. But by the way, can I do this again? The first part of that sound, I want you to hear this and write me a narrative as to where this car came from, because the funny part is where it starts. Listen to it one more time. Listen to the beginning. It's like a bowling alley. And it's not like a bowling alley. It comes out of an explosion of sound. Fascinating. I love that. There we go. We don't hear any, we don't ever hear any screeching tires. When was the last time you heard any screeching tires? Never. I never hear them. Here's one for you. You know how when people say, I thought it was a car backfiring. Have you ever heard flim? This is flim flam, by the way. A car backfiring? I'm not even sure I have. You always talk about the Kennedy assassination. I thought it was either firecrackers or a car back. I don't think cars backfire anymore. Do you know what if I told you, Flim, if I told you, watch out, you'll flood it. If you start your car in the morning and do that, of course your car would never do that, but that, watch out, it's an old Robert Klein thing. You'll flood it. Don't flood it. Pump it once. That's it. You flooded it. Don't flood it.
I don't think they even know they have no idea what that even means.
Can you use transmission, force a stick shift? Can you do that? Can he do that? He's too busy taking your calls.
No.
You can't, of course not. Did that ever come in? Do I need to do that? No, but if I had to, sometimes they'll say, hey, I can do this. Trucks, you might. Have you seen to be an 18-wheel driver? You are hitting it like 32 times, and you haven't moved 5 feet yet. So I'm not really sure. How about the old? Remember the stick was on the steering column. You moved it up and over. Very, very arcade.
And the brights was on the floor.
The
button
brights
on the floor.
The brights was a little button right there, and you had 2 keys, one for the door and one for the trunk and the glove compartment. They give you separate keys. Why? I have no idea. Why would you need separate keys? But we did. It doesn't matter then. We actually had the keys. Remember going in? There's a little thing you drive over. A little noise, beep beep. It's a little rubber tube, and it alerted this poor guy Wally inside trying to fix his transmission. He had to stop, get down from the lift to say, "What do you want? Fill it, and could you check the oil?" And Wally would have to stop what he was doing with a maroon rag. You had to have the official maroon rag. His fingernails encrusted with a black soot and yellow grime that's been there since the late 50s. And his hands were like sandpaper. You know how we wear rubber gloves for everything now? You notice that? Everybody, rubber gloves. Let me just dispel your delusion about that. Do not think for 1 minute that you are sanitary because you have rubber gloves. Rubber gloves actually are more unsanitary because of the fact that you, over a period of time, will collect dirt and grime, but you don't wash, you don't change the glove because you think somehow it's safe. But it's not. Tom in the Bronx, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, I need to congratulate you for deep-sixing that punch bowl turd, Russ. I've listened to him. He's an anti-Semite. He's a sicko. But anyway,
you know what? He's
horrible.
He's like cardamom, a great spice, but
I was introduced to that by a Sephardic woman. They put it in all their coffee, cardamom. I'm sick of it. But anyway, I worked in Yonkers. I got family there, and I got to tell you that's the second hilliest city in the United States. First, of course, being San Francisco. And I knew builders who were specially trained at building houses on hills. Very few people were able to do it. The other thing you might want to know, McLean Avenue has more bars than you could shake a stick at from one end to the other. And when I would go home some nights from a girlfriend's house, I would be worried that I was going to hit somebody that was walking out in the street so extremely inebriated that they paid no attention to oncoming traffic. And it goes on. You know what they used to do during Prohibition there? They made a lot of booze, which they brought down to the city, and it was rumored, I think it's factual, that the chief of police drove in the police car that led all the beer trucks down.
That could very well be. You know, it's funny how you would say this might interest you. There are more bars. Now, why would you say that?
Because I counted them.
That's not what I meant, but that's okay.
I mean, they were dead Uncle Ned. I mean, they got a really nice bar. I went there for a wedding reception.
Can I say something to you? Do you mind if I could just...
Sure.
I think that one of life's most wonderful pleasures is for you to go into a place, if there's a town and there is a dive bar where everybody goes and it has a smell of spilled...
Of a bathroom?
No. Spilled wine and booze, and it's kind of in there, and there's the original bar top, that's the wood, and the guy who's the regulars, and I just think there's something, not a clean bar, not a fern bar, whatever that means.
No, like we say in Italian, fedenda. It's a real fedenda. A friend of mine loved dive bars for whatever reason. He used to laugh at them. He said the bathrooms are unisex way before the word was even invented.
There was a time...
The Irish...
No, but when I don't know, I guess PJ Clark still has it. There was these urinals that are just so big you can almost bathe in them.
Yeah.
How about at Gallagher's? They used to put ice cubes in the urinal. This is important.
Yes.
Women should.
I never understood that. I don't really put. I could see the elephant mince, which they tell you not to eat, but
wait a minute. The elephant mince.
Community is these round. They're supposed
no, I know.
sanitize.
They call them a urine cake.
They look like elephant mince.
Right, a urine cake.
A urine cake.
No, that's what they were called. That's their thing.
Yes, you're right. You're 100% right.
And there's
I ran a senior center with a bathroom. I ordered them once. So, but that neighborhood has some of the best Irish carpenters you could ever imagine, and the bars that they fix up, and they revitalize the facades. They're beautiful. So it's they should have. In fact, there are places in Yonkers that they have tours. Beautiful, one-time, very wealthy communities overlooking the Hudson. And I've been to one of those houses. I knew some people, and it was fantastic. You've never seen such workmanship in these homes with, what do they call it, the fishtail shingling on the side of the houses.
Right.
Beautiful. But it's my daughter lives up there. I said, how long are you going to stay there? She goes, I love it, Dad. And I said, all right.
By the way, Tom, you know what this part of the call is called? This is called running out of gas. And this is the best part. This is wait. This is when the call gets the best, because you've been through it. You've been through all of the lore, the fact, the history, all the good stuff. But you're not done yet. So you said, yeah, my daughter, she's okay. Her mother drives me crazy. One time and then you kind of off.
Yeah,
you're just kind of like dry.
Yeah.
It's just slowing down. So maybe I should call.
Yeah, like a top.
I don't know.
Who should call
I'm
it
tired.
a day?
I gotta get this mole looked at. That kind of. You just gotta like just. But I appreciate it. By the way, there's a place in Yonkers. Last time my wife and I were there. This Frank. I like this New Haven pizza, like Frank Pepe and. Have you ever seen the way they slice pizza?
I know. He was a former cop, that guy.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the way they slice pizza?
School, yeah.
Frank Pepe's, it's like somebody who's never seen. Symmetry means nothing. You know how normally you say, go down the middle, okay, then turn it to the side, go again, now you got six. And then do it very symmetrical. Not these folks. You get a piece like, what is this? That's a slice. That's a slice? Other guy gets one 2 feet long. You have no rhyme or reason. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it's irregulars. If you've been on Central Avenue, maybe, Nathan's, it was there many years ago. That was a great place.
Thank you so much. See, we're at that point. We're slowing down.
Murphy's.
The whole conversation just kind of slowing down. Ever go to Nathan's? Yeah, hit a dog there one time.
Everybody went up to Patricia Murphy's after they graduated.
I knew her well. It was a Saturday. I wonder if that dog's okay. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to Joel. Let's go. We're just running out of gas. Joel in Manhattan. Joel, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, you're killing me.
Why?
Well, because you're too funny tonight, and I bruised my sternum, and it just kills me every time I have to laugh. It's exceedingly painful.
How did you bruise your sternum?
I fell off my bike, slow motion, and landed on my sternum.
It's funny. Now, you must have your arms must have been, flat out? Didn't you break the fall?
This was a bonehead move.
You were drunk.
I was, no, I don't drink.
Well, that's your problem.
Ago. Yeah, there's my problem. I drink it down. I don't have any problem drinking. But that one. But I was going to drop something off in a garbage, on the corner, and I was getting ready to shoot it with my right hand. Hit a bump, and I flipped over the bike. I landed on my hand, breaking the fall. Actually, my face.
There you
was like going to the pavement. But
there you go.
I was wearing a very well brimmed bike hat, and it kept me from breaking up my face a bit. But unfortunately, after a couple of days, this sternum thing got worse, and I had an X-rayed, nothing minor.
What exactly? Joel? What exactly does the sternum do, other than just locate where things are?
I think the whole idea of the thing is to protect your vital organs, like your heart. It's near your heart and your lungs, that area, basically.
No, that's the rib.
It's the center. It's like where if you touch your
No, I know where it is. What does it do?
it's just it's just there, just collecting dust most of the time. But
actually, you probably don't know this, but the sternum or the breastbone is the flat bone in the center of your chest. It plays a critical role. It provides a vital organ protection. It anchors the ribs, structural support. It provides attachment points for clavicles, the chest muscles. It's fascinating. It's just one of those things where, I will stop and say, what exactly does the sternum do? Howard Sternum used to be funny, but now he's an old anyway, so you found the show. You find this. Aside from that, you found the show tonight entertaining, is what you're trying to tell me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've listened in the past since you switched over to tonight, and I have. There were times when I was tempted to call, and there was a while ago when you were talking about smell.
What do you mean you were tempted to call? But
because. Well, I don't know. There's just so many people on the line, and you were going on.
No, they're not. Not really. You'd be surprised. Not really, and not good calls. And we've got like a handful of chronics who call, who just are they're just the worst. Some are good, but they feel like they've hit celebrity status. But more importantly, tell me if you could in a few words how the show entertains you, why you love it, and why you think this is some of the finest radio you've ever heard in your adult life. Go ahead. Take your time.
Well, I think it has to do the whole Seinfeld thing. It's the show about nothing and everything all at the same time. Because, you can spitball all you need to, and it seems to just kind of like snowball into something bigger and bigger and bigger that you create. And people grab onto it, and it just keeps going. So
do you know when you're sitting sometimes on a porch or you're at a bar and you're just shooting with your friend?
Right.
That's what that is. It's called talking. And it doesn't follow any kind of set routine. You talk about things, and there was a show. I used to go to a wonderful Irish bar, and nobody really knew what they were talking about. They would just forget, and they would say something and then repeat. And I wanted to do a show called What the F Are They Talking About? And I would get there. I'd say, we're going to tape at 3. So they would get there at 3, but actually we tape at 5. So give them 2 hours under their belt and then roll tape and just let it go. And you would have people, and you would wonder, what are they talking about? Where is this going? And I thought to myself, that'd be a great concept for a radio show. And ta-da! You're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel, I just came through the tunnel. Did anybody mention Rory Dolan's up there?
Excuse me. Hold it. What tunnel?
The tunnel.
See, you just said the tunnel. There's a lot of tunnels. So, okay. You came through the Holland Tunnel, and?
I was wondering, did anybody mention Rory Dolan's up there in Yonkers?
They did not, as a matter of fact, and for good reason. Rusty, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Yeah, Lionel, about these guys, these crackpot communists that call you all the time, and you explain to them everything like that. The one thing you have patience of a saint, because these guys don't comprehend. Even a moron like me could figure this out. But what happens to all their leaders, like the Cuban guy and Hitler and all? They all turn out to be they have no. All the head guys,
the Cuban guy,
things, they're gone or whatever. They're no good after a while. They start out good, like probably Hitler was a good guy.
I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't.
They all start out good, helping the people, and then they turn out to be rats.
There you go, Rusty, who actually will go down to history and say, at first Hitler turned out to be a good guy. Yeah, okay, all right, not my words, my friend. No. Let's go to Diane in Brooklyn. Diane, you're on the other side of midnight.
Okay, I wanted to say two things real fast. One thing for the guy that broke his sternum. Whenever I'm about to fall, like I was on my bike once, and you see that you're about to fall. Yes. Or whenever I fall,
it's obvious.
I don't break it. You don't break it. You glide into it, and you don't get hurt that way.
Let me stop you right there. If you're gonna fall over, like you're just looking down, you're gonna go straight down. How do you glide into gravity? How do you do that?
I do. I just allow myself.
No, you don't.
I don't try. I do, and I do.
No,
yes, I do. I you and I don't break it. When you try to break it, that's when you get hurt.
That's when you smash your face up. That's when you hurt yourself. Breaking
Never
it is...
thought, no, that doesn't happen because you're relaxed.
No, you're not relaxed. Relaxing no. You're going to end up killing yourself.
No.
I can see it right now. What happened, Doc? Well, we lost Diana. She didn't break. You know how she is when she falls. She didn't break it. No, you should always break when you fall.
I'm telling you, this, I believe, is how professional, in the movies when they do the tricks and stuff.
Riveting.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
You know, there is something very quickly. When you do fall, there is a period of time when you say, I'm going to fall. Here it comes. And it's like, no, time is so, and you know it. Here we go. This is going to hurt. One time I was trying to change a light bulb. This sounds like a joke. And I was on a swivel, kind of an office chair. The floor must have been like 100 years old. This wooden shellacked. It was like concrete. I stood up with my arms extended and the thing goes sideways. Remember, my hands are extended up and I fell on my ribs. Didn't break them. Do you know all of the activities that you do on a regular basis that involve breathing? You would be surprised. And straining, grunting. Some of the most important and critical events of our lives involve straining and grunting, which I think should be the subtext of the show.
Laughing is the worst. I broke 2 ribs. It's the worst.
There is, and the doctors say there's nothing I can do. Well, Mr. Riffraff, thank you so much. Flim Flam Riffraff, he's still sedate after yesterday's wild fete at the home with his meatloaf parade. And Mr. Blaze. Meatloaf Parade. And Mr. Blaze, thank you so much. And thank you for listening. This is Lionel with you, reminding you the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya.